Naruto, starting with the reward of the Seventh Hokage. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 1. Am I done? Well, Zihong, who was watering flowers by the window, was unexpectedly brought into the room by him sniffing the scent in the air. Kurenai's face flushed. She looked at Yuki Yuichi and asked softly, "Yuichi, what do you want to show me?" "This is for you." Yuki Yuichi fiddled with his bedside cabinet for a while, then found a small and exquisite-looking picture frame. This is a picture frame with two glass sides, but there is a piece of white paper in the middle, which looks a bit rough. Looking at the picture frame that was only the size of an ordinary person's palm, Kurenai was a little curious and blinked her big eyes at Yuki Yuichi. "What is this? Why is there a piece of paper in the middle?" Hearing what Kurenai said, Yuki Yuichi chuckled, then took her little hand and ran to the window, pointing the picture frame in his hand towards the sun under the sunlight. The originally rough white paper now shows the portrait of Yuki Kurenai. "How is it? Do you like it? Today is your birthday, and this is the gift I have been preparing for a long time." Yuki Kurenai looked at his red hair and nodded with a blushing face, and Zihong, who had walked to the door of his room at some point, twitched his eyebrows and felt a surge of anger in his heart. This guy only knows how to seduce his own daughter. Every time he saw his daughter looking at the brat with stars in her eyes, he couldn't help but want to slap himself twice. Yuki's mother died during childbirth, and his father sacrificed himself to save him during a mission, leaving Yuki, who was only 1 year old at the time. It just so happened that he also had a 1-year-old daughter. So he brought Yuki home to raise her together. Originally, I thought that raising one child was the same as raising two. Unexpectedly, this kid has been flirting with his little girl since he could speak. At first he simply thought that they grew up together and had a good relationship. It was not until his little girl told him that she wanted to marry Yuki that he realized what was happening. This wave is a typical example of letting the wolf into the house. Yuki is a time traveler, but his results are not ideal. Hong Wen was hit by a moving diamond body in the duel arena. Just when he was about to start patting his head, he turned into a 1-year-old baby in the blink of an eye. Before he could get familiar with the environment, someone hugged him and told him that his father had died. This made him feel guilty for a long time. "Most likely it's because I traveled through time and space, and then my relatives in this life died." Fortunately, he was adopted by Yuhi Shinku and his achievement system was awakened at the same time. As long as you achieve the achievement, you can get the ninja template from the previous life's Naruto mobile game. However, the achievements are random and there are no hints, so he can only figure it out on his own. When you can speak, you have successfully unlocked an achievement. Childhood sweetheart, a wife should be cultivated from childhood. Reward, Uzumaki Naruto. Ninja student, Uzumaki Naruto skills, splashing paint, clone attack, chance of failure, seduction, I will make everyone recognize me. Hey, skill 1, splashing paint. Your painting skills will become stronger, but please be aware that you will get hit. Skill 2, clone smash. You can summon Schrodinger's clone to uppercut your opponent. But please note that this is Schrodinger's clone, and you have a % chance of summoning a clone with its butt sticking up. Skill 3, seduction technique. The effect is just as the name suggests. You can transform into a naked beauty or handsome man to seduce the other party. This is an extremely powerful ninjutsu. The legendary 3 ninjas, the 3rd generation known as the strongest Hokage, Konoha's technician, and Kaguya have all been controlled by this move. Special talent, Uzumaki bloodline. This is the power of the golden finger. In addition to the 3 skills that come with the template, it will also be endowed with a bloodline that symbolizes this template. For example, the first childhood sweetheart achievement gives the template of the 7th Hokage, which, in addition to these 3 skills, also gives him the blood of the Uzumaki clan. But he did not have the powerful bloodline of Yongamani, so his hair gradually turned red. "Yuchi-kun, I love you the most." Kurenai held the photo frame, her little face flushed, and she blinked her big red eyes. Yuhi Shinku at the door couldn't help but clench her fists. "Damn brat." Just when Yuki was about to speak, Yuhi Shinku walked in with a dark face and punched Yuki on the head. "You little brat, don't corrupt Hong," Zihong said, and at the same time took Zihong downstairs, saying as they walked, "The food is ready, come down and eat." "Oh, I see, Uncle Shinku." Yuki Yuichi held his head and watched Yuhi Shinku bring his little wife downstairs. He thought viciously in his heart, sooner or later, Shinku will find you to get gold coins. There is no woman in the Yuhi family, and Yuhi Shinku played the role of both father and mother to raise Yuki and Yuhi Kurenai had also developed good cooking skills. Sitting at the dinner table, Zai Hong picked up some food for Hong Mao in front of her father, and said, "Dad's cooking is delicious." "Yeah, Uncle's cooking skills are very good," Yuki Yuichi said, grinning at Yuhi Shinku and giving her a thumbs up. Looking at Yuki Yuichi's appearance, Yuhi Shinku was in a trance. This action made him seem as if he saw a young man wearing green tights exactly the same. However, Yuhi Shinku came to her senses in an instant, and couldn't help but smile when she saw Yuki Yuichi and her daughter wolfing down the food. "It's great to have such a life. You two start school tomorrow. Don't act naughty at school," Yuhi Shinku said, then looked at Yuki Yuichi who was eating. "Why did you look at me and say this?" Feeling Yuhi Shiku's gaze, Yuki Yuichi shouted somewhat indignantly, "Who doesn't know that I, Yuki Yuichi, am a handsome young man in the area?" Ziri Zhenhong sneered. He was not worried about Ziri. Hong has a very gentle personality, just like her mother, weak and frail, and never does anything naughty. On the contrary, this little kid's talent for getting into trouble has been revealed since he was able to run freely at the age of 2. At the age of 2, he could play the little bird of other people's newborn babies. He would sneak out at the age of 3, relying on his title as a jonin to buy things and leave debts everywhere, all with his name on them. After he started learning chakra extraction techniques at the age of 4, he became unstoppable. This kid seems to have opened up his Ren and Du meridians. He's extremely energetic and causes trouble everywhere. He would even take Hong to the Hokage Rock and urinate on the Sandame's Ninja Rock. When I was 5 years old, I was much more well behaved. I met a young man wearing green tights and exercised with him, but there are still some weird things happening every now and then. He is just a devil. Wait, I'll let you see how powerful I am. Yuki stood up and shouted. He had been pretending to be a naughty kid and running around everywhere for years in an attempt to trigger the achievement. Although the achievement did not trigger, his character became much younger. Feel the pain. How many floors do you have to carry a bag of rice? Chapter 2. A handsome young man famous in the village. The warm sunshine shines on the earth. The breeze blows on my face with a fragrance of mud and grass. I look up and see a beam of light. Yuki Yuichi stood at the gate, blocking the sun with his hands. A beam of light shone through the gaps between his fingers and onto the tip of his nose. I looked up and saw a beam of light, illuminating the path to the horizon. I looked down and saw Dream, and there was only you in the dream, Yuki Yuichi said, looking at Yuhi Kurenai beside him, completely unaware of Yuhi Shinku who had a dark face beside him. "Yuchi-kun, you are so annoying." Yuhi Kurenai blushed and pinched the corner of her clothes awkwardly. Although she was shy, she had a happy smile on her face. I also. Before Yuhi Kurenai finished her words, Yuhi Shinku glared at Yuki Yuichi fiercely and coughed to interrupt her daughter's spellcasting. "If you don't report to the ninja school now, you'll be late." Yuhi Kurenai, whose spellcasting was interrupted, pouted and looked at her father. "Dad is so annoying. Brother Yuichi is still the best. Don't worry, Uncle Hong, I will definitely take good care of Hong." Yuki immediately patted his chest and made the promise. "I am worried because you are here." Yuhi Shinku glanced at Yuki Yuichi and then said, "Today is the first day of school, let me take you there. Actually, you don't have to see me off. As a handsome young man famous in the area, I may be more familiar with the situation in the village than you," Yuki Yuichi said, taking Yuhi Kurenai's hand and about to leave. "Yes." Yuhi Kurenai also smiled, dangling Yuki Yuichi's hand, and looking at Yuhi Shinku with a pair of big red eyes. "We don't want Dad to send us off." Hearing this, Ziri Zhenhong clenched his fists. What a damn boy! What sin had he committed to make him want to adopt him? At first I thought of raising him as a godson, but now look, this is not a godson, this is a son-in-law. Zio Beike was completely bewitched by this brat. Even though they didn't want him to send their 2 little ones off to school, he still insisted on sending them off on their first days. Yuhi Shinku followed behind them and looked at the 2 people holding hands. The corners of her mouth couldn't help but curl up slightly. Although it's a bit unpleasant, it's not impossible to consider the fact that the person who kidnapped Zio Beike was Yuki Yuichi. Although he's naughty and does not care about his job, he knows that Yuki is a good boy, and since I grow up with Hong, I don't have to worry about relationship problems. "Good morning, Uncle Hayata. You are selling fish again." "Good morning, Sister Nako." "Sister Yukiko, you are so white." "Good morning, Uncle Nahara." As they walked, Yuki greeted everyone he saw, which left Yuhi Shinku, who was following behind, speechless. "I, a single jonin, don't know as many villagers as you do." "Hey, Kakashi." When Yuki Yuichi saw Kakashi, his eyes lit up and he ran over with Hong Zio. "Good morning, Kakashi." "Good morning, Kakashi saw that it was Yuchi, and took a step back calmly. While lifting his mask up every time he saw this guy, he would sneak attack his mask. Kakashi, you can't do this. Seeing Kakashi's actions, Hokage Tsukumo pushed him forward. When meeting friends, be more enthusiastic. He's not my friend, Kakashi retorted. He had met Yuchi a few times, and they met when they were playing ninja games. That's not okay either. It's impolite, Hokage. Tsukumo continued to instruct, be polite to everyone. What a gentle person. Yuchi thought silently in his heart when he heard what Hokage Tsukumo said. Hokage Tsukumo is the one who made a name for himself in the ninja world as the Konoha White Fang, a true cage-level warrior. It is rare for such a famous person to have a gentle personality. However, looking at Kakashi, who was rolling his eyes, Yuki Yuichi still looked at him with some pity. Poor child, you will never have the chance to do this again. The tree wants to be quiet but the wind keeps on, and the child wants to support but the kiss does not wait. Makure, long time no see. After teaching Kakashi, Hokage Tsukumo turned to look at Yuhi. Makure, long time no see. Brother Tsukumo, Yuhi Shinku also greeted them. There were only so many Jonin in Konoha, and they all knew each other. Kukoshi, can't you really let me see under the mask? Yuchi came up to Kakashi, put his hands on his shoulders, and acted like a familiar person. My name is Kakashi, not Kakashi. Kakashi looked at Yuchi helplessly, not understanding why he was so persistent in taking off his mask. Okay, 50-50. As they walked and talked, Hokage Tsukumo looked at Yuchi, who was clinging to his son, and smiled. Is Kakashi also enrolling this year? Yeah, that's right. Hokage Tsukumo nodded in response. I'm old enough. Sending him to ninja school would save me a lot of trouble. Yuhi Shinku glanced at Yuchi and nodded in agreement. Using the ninja school as a nursery is also a good choice. Ha. Hearing what Yuhi Shinku said, Hokage Tsukumo also nodded, then looked at him with a look of confidence. The same is true for Yuhi Shinku at this moment. The two single men fell in love with each other in front of them. Yuki Yuichi stood next to Kakashi, and Kurenai followed behind him, hopping with her hands behind her back. By the way, Wuuke, are you really not going to let me see your true face? Hearing this, veins popped up on Kakashi's forehead and he clenched his fists. It seemed that he could no longer endure it, but at this moment, Might Guy's youthful voice came. Yuchi, his name is Kakashi, Hokage Kakashi. Only then did Yuki realize that he and his companions had already arrived at the gate of the ninja school in Might Guy, and Might Guy appeared in front of them at some point without anyone knowing. Hey, boy, we meet again. Might Guy grinned at Yuki, revealing his snow-white teeth, and gave him a thumbs up. Uncle Dai, long time no see. Yuki Yuichi also grinned and gave a thumbs up. Might Guy is a perennial shinin of Konoha. He doesn't know any ninjutsu and practices physical skills in the village like a fool every day, so almost everyone in Konoha village laughs at him. This kind of ridicule even affected the young Might Guy, but Yuki is an exception. Knowing the original story, he does not look down on Might Guy and Might Guy like others. Just kidding. One beat the 7 ninja swordsmen into the 3 lucky treasures, and the other almost kicked them out of the finale. Besides, Might Guy can really open the 8 gates for his friends, and he might be able to save his life at any time. Such people, instead of rushing to make friends, are truly out of their minds and rushing to be laughed at. Chapter 3 Achievement, Rival of a Lifetime. Please get along with him. No, that can't be done. Before Might Guy could answer, Might Guy refused with a serious face. Why? Hokage Tsukumo's eyes widened and he couldn't help but take a step back and look at Yuhi Shinku. Has he met a legendary monster parent? Seeing Hokage Tsukumo's actions, Kakashi explained, this guy did not pass the school's assessment. Oh, sorry, we met at the gate of the ninja school, and I thought, said Hokage Tsukumo, while looking at the scars on Might Guy's body left by training. Guy will definitely pass the test. Yuki came closer to Kakashi again, put his hand on his shoulder, and gave Might Guy a thumbs up. Youth is so fickle, but as long as you work hard, you will definitely reap rewards. That's right, Might Guy shouted excitedly, looking at Yuchi with tears in his eyes. I will definitely pass the makeup exam and become a student of the ninja school. With that said, Might Guy walked forward. And Might Guy smiled at everyone and followed behind him looking at their backs. Hokage Tsukumo smiled at Kakashi and said, Kakashi, don't be proud even if you got into the ninja school. If this continues, that child will definitely be stronger than you. Kakashi looked at Might Guy's back and rolled his eyes with extreme disdain. The guy next to me is much better than him. Yuki Yuichi, I suspect you are implying something about me, but I have no evidence. Kakashi, Kai is very powerful, and his efforts are no worse than anyone else's, Yuki Yuichi said seriously. Also, Uncle Dai has created a very powerful secret technique that will greatly improve his own strength. Hatake Tsukumo and Yuhi Shinku didn't take Yuki Yuichi's words to heart. What kind of ninjutsu could a child know? However, Hatake Tsukumo agreed with his words. He squatted down and said with a smile, Yaoi is right. Did you see the injuries on the child? This is a symbol of his hard work. The school is not so stupid. The list of vacancies has not been announced yet, right? Go and ask for his name, he'll be a good opponent. Kakashi was stunned when he heard this. Compared to Yuki Yuichi's words, he believed his father more since his father said so. He was really curious about how this person could catch up with him. Thinking of this, Kakashi immediately shouted to Might Guy, "What's your name?" Hearing Kakashi's words, Might Guy turned around, smiled, and pointed his thumb at himself. Might Guy, from now on I will become a man stronger than anyone else. After saying that, Might Guy and Might Guy left together. Achievement, a lifelong rival. Nothing is more memorable than witnessing the lives of two men. This kick is for you. Reward, ninjutsu, defense, ninjutsu, defense, passively gain 20% damage reduction effect. Maybe you can try to resist the heavenly shock star and see what the Pure Land looks like. When he saw the achievement reward being triggered, Yuichi's face was filled with joy. Moreover, he was very satisfied with this reward. If he remembered correctly, this was the secret scroll of the head-padding mobile game in his previous life. Active use could reduce the damage by 90%, and passive use could reduce the damage by 20%. Although the only reward he received was a passive reduction in damage, it was enough to make him happy. The reduction in damage also means an increase in endurance. And the Uzumaki Naruto, ninja student, template he received as a reward for his first achievement gave him the blood of the Uzumaki clan, so his endurance is already strong, and after acquiring the Nitaijutsu, defense, he will only become more powerful. What made him even happier was that he had been working so hard in the past few years but had not yet triggered the achievement reward, but now it was triggered without doing anything. This made him understand a little bit how to trigger the reward. The first achievement was childhood sweethearts, and the second achievement was a lifelong rival. Both of these points are related to the original characters. It seems that in order to trigger the achievement reward, he must go through the original character. As for how to trigger it, he already has a general idea in his mind, but he still needs to practice it. Yuichi, what's wrong with you? Seeing Yuki standing there motionless, Yuhi shook his hand curiously. Feeling Yuhi actions, Yuki came back to his senses and hugged her excitedly. Seeing this, veins on Yuhi Shiku's forehead bulged and his fists stiffened. Zhenhong, it seems you have found a good son-in-law. Seeing his appearance, Hatake Tsukumo said with a teasing smile. Alice, upon hearing this, Zhenhong sighed and said nothing. On the contrary, Yuki felt a little strange when he saw Hatake Tsukumo's frivolous look. Shouldn't Konoha White Fang be a cold, serious and old-fashioned person? Why does it look like a sand sculpture? Whether it was the conversation with Might Guy just now, or the teasing of Yuhi Shinku now, he always gave people the impression of being a guy who is not very serious, a low-profile version of Jiraiya. Thinking about this, Yuki glanced at Kakashi, who seemed to be used to it, and then he reacted. Kakashi seemed to have said in the original work that the 1,000 years of slaying was the secret of the physical technique created by his father. Anyone who could create such an unorthodox ninjutsu as the 1,000 years of slaying could not be a very decent person. He is also a warm-hearted man who can give up the mission for his companions, so he is probably not that serious. I'll just take you here. Next, you will have to report to the classroom by yourself. Yuhi Shinku looked at Yuki Yuichi and Yuhi and spoke. Remember not to make trouble and listen to your teachers at school. I understand, Dad. Zhenhong nodded obediently. I know that too, Dad. Yuki was still thinking about Hatake Tsukumo. When he heard what Kurenai said, he subconsciously imitated her and spoke. Zhenhong heard this and narrowed her eyes slightly. What did you call me? Seeing her old father's unfriendly face, Kurenai pulled Yuichi's arm, but his attention was focused on Hatake Tsukumo's affairs and he didn't pay attention. Instead, he subconsciously said, Dad, you born evil Uchi. Yuki brat, I'm going to beat you up myself right now. Yuhi Shinku punched Yuki Yuichi on the head. Hatake Tsukumo, who was standing by, grabbed his shoulders and dragged him back. He's still a child, they are the future of Konoha. Shinku, calm down. After being hit by Yuhi Shinku, Yuki covered his head. Seeing that the situation was not good, He shouted "Oh my god" and took Yuhi Shiku's little hand and ran to school. Run away. Uncle Zhenhong has lost his mind, but don't worry, Hong, I will protect you, Yuki. Yuchi held her hand and took her to run to school. While running, Kurenai listened to his words, her little face flushed. Damn you little devil. In the distance, Zihi's Zhenhong's voice came from afar, with some warnings. Hong, don't be fooled by this little brat. Hearing what Yuhi Shiku said, Yuki couldn't help but curl his lips and thought to himself, haha, Hong has already been in my shape. Ninja schools are not as small as they appear in anime. Konoha actually has a pretty large population. It is more like a city than a village, although the population of the entire Konoha has never been counted. According to Yuki's estimation over the years, the population is no less than 400,000 or 500,000, which is comparable to a smaller city with such a large population and only one ninja school. It naturally cannot be too small. Chapter 4. Stay away from yellow hair, such as a white hair. 55 Open. Yuki Yuichi said, pretending to be fierce. They are very dangerous. Looking at Yuki's exaggerated appearance, Kurenai couldn't help but smile, and at the same time jumped up and touched his head. Is the yellow-haired guy you are talking about that kind? Pointing at a yellow-haired hedgehog head not far away, Zihong asked. Yuki Yuichi looked at the young man who was pointed at by Kurenai and couldn't help but touch his chin. The yellow hair I'm talking about is not this kind. Which one is that? That's it. That's it. Yuki Yuichi was at a loss for words for a moment. After a long while, he saw Kakashi walking by him. His eyes lit up and he pulled Kakashi to Kurenai and said, that's the kind of guy who looks decent but actually likes to pick up little girls. Kakashi, how could he like to hook up with little girls? Yuki Yuichi was still holding his arm. Look, this guy Wuwake is wearing a mask and has a pair of dead fish eyes. People like him who like to pick up young girls are generally called yellow-haired. If you encounter such a situation, you should stay away from it. Yuki Yuichi was still talking, but a voice suddenly appeared behind him. You little brat, when you talk about others, can you please not point at me? That's really rude. Hearing the voice, Yuki Yuichi turned his head and said, sister, you are so beautiful. Ha, is that so? Uzumaki Kushina couldn't help laughing when she heard someone say that she was beautiful. What's so beautiful about my sister? Your hair is beautiful. Yuki Yuichi gave Uzumaki Kushina a thumbs up. Then used his hand to lift up his own hair, which was similar in color to Uzumaki Kushina's. This is a color reserved for handsome men and beautiful women. Kid, can't you tell that you have good taste? When Uzumaki Kushina saw Yuki Yuichi's look, she couldn't help but walk forward and ruffle his hair. You are the new students enrolling today, right? Minato Namikaze, who was called Yellow Hair, looked at the three little ones in front of him and spoke gently. He doesn't seem to be unhappy about being called Huangmeo. When Hatake Kakashi saw Namikaze Minato asking the three of them, he nodded. Kurenai apologized with an apologetic look on her face. I'm really sorry. Yuichi didn't mean it. We are the new students who enrolled today. Hearing this, Namikaze Minato waved his hand nonchalantly. That's great. We were just like you before. Upon hearing this, Yuki Yuichi smiled and rushed to Kurenai's side, holding her shoulders with one hand and Kakashi, who was still struggling with the other. The legend of the ninja world sets sail today. Seeing him like this, Uzumaki Kushina couldn't help but burst out laughing. So, future ninja legend, what's your name? Yuichi. Yuki Yuichi, future ninja god. Yuki Yuichi said this, giving a thumbs up to Uzumaki Kushina and Namikaze Minato, revealing his white, shining teeth. Hearing his self-introduction, Uzumaki Kushina couldn't help but burst into laughter. While laughing, she put her arm around Namikaze Minato's shoulder and imitated him to introduce herself. My name is Kushina, Uzumaki Kushina, Konoha's future first female Hokage. Minato Namikaze shook his head helplessly. Kushina was still as carefree as before. Kushina, we should go. Lord Hokage is still waiting for us. I know. What's wrong with asking the old man to wait a while? Uzumaki Kushina curled her lips nonchalantly. She had no respect for Sarutobi Hiruzen at all. In fact, this is true. As a descendant of the Uzumaki clan and the contemporary Nine-Tails Jinchuriki, she can walk sideways in Konoha. Even if Danzo's roots were blown to pieces, nothing would happen to her. The Nine-Tails Jinchuriki is confident. Looking at the two people walking further and further away, Kurenai scratched her head. That sister looks so beautiful and confident. I want to be this kind of person in the future. Looking at Kurenai, who pursed her lips and clasped her hands in front of her chest, Yuki Yuichi hugged her and said with a smile, don't worry, you will definitely become a beautiful and powerful female ninja. Yeah, Yuhi Kurenai nodded like a chick pecking at rice, then looked at Yuki Yuichi with her eyes curved and a smile. Yuichi will definitely become a future legend in the ninja world. Red, Yuichi. The two looked at each other, and Kakashi felt disgusted. Hey. Kakashi is gone. The two stared at each other for a long time until Kurenai lowered her head shyly, but then she found that Kakashi, who was originally beside her, was gone. This guy Wuwake is really too much? He actually left us alone. Seeing that Yuki Yuichi was about to say something, Yuhi Kurenai pulled his hand and ran towards the teaching building, saying as she ran, "Let's go too. The class will start soon." The ninja school was very large, and the only thing they were told about was that they would be assigned to Class A, Year 1. There were no signs on the road. It seems that the first lesson of ninja has begun. Lesson 1, Intelligence Collection and Investigation. But this has nothing to do with Kurenai Yuhi and Yuchi Yuki as Yuhi Shinku's beloved daughter and adopted son. They don't need to investigate these things because when they followed Yuhi Shinku to register for the ninja school, Yuhi Shinku told them where the two classrooms were. Maybe this is the benefit of having a background. When the two of them walked into the classroom, they found that they were the last to arrive. We're going to separate. Zairi Hong looked around. There were still 2 positions left, but the 2 positions were separated by a distance, which made her a little disappointed. I thought I could sit with Yuchi-kun. Kurenai Yuhi visibly wilted, and Yuchi Yuki also looked around and found that it was exactly as Kurenai Yuhi had said. However, when he looked around, he saw 2 acquaintances. His eyes suddenly lit up, and he took Zairi Hong's little hand and walked over as they looked around. People in the classroom were also looking at them when they saw Zairi Hong. The boys in the classroom became excited. "Kai, so cute. This is the cutest girl I've ever seen." When the female classmates saw Yuchi Yuki, they had the same reaction, but they praised him for his handsomeness. Yuki Yuichi looks good. His good looks and red hair make him look a bit cool and handsome, especially this kind of cool and handsome look combined with his energetic temperament. He is simply a girl killer. However, when they saw Kurenai Yuhi and Yuki Yu holding hands, they immediately lost their composure for a moment. The whole classroom, regardless of gender, was filled with groans. Chapter 5, The Virtues of a Gentleman. How to do. The whole classroom was staring at Yuki Yuichi and Yuhi Kurenai, but only 2 ruffian-looking boys in the corner looked a little frightened. "He's not going to beat us here, is he?" "It shouldn't be." A young man couldn't help swallowing, his legs trembling with fear whenever they see Yuchi Yuki. They will think of the past before. The 2 of them were playing with their friends, but when they saw my guy, they laughed at him. As a result, he was bumped into by this guy, who started beating him up without saying a word. The key point is that 4 or 5 of them can't beat him alone from then on. It became their nightmare whenever they met this guy named Yuki Yuichi on the road. No matter what they were doing, they would be pulled over and beaten. It's no use looking for parents. Even if the parents know about it, they still need to go and thank them. Who can understand this? Yuki Yuichi pulled Yuhi Kurenai forward step by step, and the fear in their hearts grew more and more. "My 2 classmates, long time no see." Yuchi Yuki looked at the 2 of them and spoke with a smile. Long time no see. It's been so long since we last met. What are you 2 doing sitting in our seats?" As he said this, Yuchi Yuki walked up to the 2 of them and couldn't help but frown. "Have you forgotten the virtues I taught you?" The 2 teenagers swallowed and then replied tremblingly, "No, I haven't forgotten." After saying that, the 2 of them fled from their seats, and Yuchi Yuki nodded with satisfaction. These 2 guys were really tactful. They just said 1 sentence and left. It was worth a gentleman's virtues I taught them before. Look, this is how to learn quickly. When Yuchi Yuki just came in and found that there was no seat, he discovered these 2 old acquaintances. "Isn't this a coincidence? When I saw them laughing at my guy before, I couldn't help but beat them up. They even dared to run back to complain to their parents. It's so funny." Is it useful to complain? Obviously, it didn't work when their parents came to find fault. Yuki Yuichi naturally brought up Yuhi Shinku, who was out on a mission at the time, and told them with a righteous look on his face this is the ninja training method created for him by Yuhi Shinku. If one wants to become a ninja, one must endure this and undergo training that is unbearable for ordinary people. This way, when you become a ninja in the future, you won't be easily sacrificed during a mission in Konoha village. There are basically no civilians who don't want to become ninjas. Even if one cannot become a ninja, one still hopes that his children can become ninjas. After Yuki Yuichi said that this was a training method specially developed by the senior ninja Yuhi Shinku, these parents who were looking for trouble said thank you to him with a happy look on their faces. "Yuichi, is this really okay?" Yuhi Kurenai looked at Yuchi Yuki timidly, her little face full of worry. "Dad told us not to trick or treat, It's okay. Yuki Yuichi pushed Yuhi Kurenai to sit against the wall, and he sat next to her. Uncle Zhenhong told us not to make trouble, but we didn't cause any trouble. They both gave up their seats to us voluntarily. Is that what you two said? Yuki Yuichi said, looking up at the two people who had not walked far, and spoke with a smile. I didn't force you, did I? Hearing what Yuki Yuichi said, the two people who had just given up their seats hurriedly shook their heads to deny it, fearing that they would be beaten if they were too late. No, absolutely not. You are a good person who teaches us to cultivate virtues. How could you do something like snatching other people's seats? Look, they took the initiative to give up their seats to us. Yuki Yuichi patted Yuhi Kurenai's little head. There are still many good people in Konoha. Not everyone is as grumpy as Uncle Zhenhong. Oh, Zhenhong nodded, not quite understanding. She also didn't refute Yuki Yuichi's statement that her father had a bad temper, which in her opinion he did have a bit of a temper. She hated it the most because she always liked to hit Yuichi on the head just as they were talking in a low voice. A middle-aged man wearing glasses walked in from outside the door looking at the people below the podium. He couldn't help but cough lightly, and then knocked on the podium a few times. Signaling everyone to be quiet after the classroom was quiet, he introduced himself. Hello everyone, I am your homeroom teacher. In the days ahead, I will teach you all the knowledge of ninjas. My name is Umino Ikaku. I like to eat tricolor meatballs, hate butterflies, and my dream is to become a responsible teacher. Hello, teacher. Yuki Yuichi stood up first and greeted Kakashi. Rolled his dead fish eyes in the crowd, and for a moment he was speechless for some reason when Ikaku Umino saw Yuki Yuichi standing up. He also looked over, and their eyes met in the air. After just one glance, Umino Ikaku could sense that this was a thorn in the side. Based on his many years of teaching experience, Yuki didn't think as much as he did when he heard the name of Ikaku Umino. He thought of Iruka, the mentor of the Seventh Hokage. This should be Umino Iruka's father. Ahem. Umino Ikaku and Yuki Yuichi looked at each other and coughed twice. No need to welcome the teacher like this. Now, let's start introducing ourselves, Umino Ikaku said, looking around, and asked, who will go first? Anyone volunteer? Me. As Kano Ikaku finished his words, a young man wearing goggles with the Uchiha clan emblem printed on his back rushed to the podium. Umino Ikaku, there seem to be a lot of troublemakers in this class. My name is Uchiha Obito. I hate eating green peppers, but I like. Uchiha Obito paused here, and then continued, I like eating ramen. My dream is to become the Yondaime Hokage. I will definitely be the Hokage. Ha 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 ha. Uchiha Obito laughed wildly in front of the podium, but then a shrill voice rang out in the classroom. Don't dream, you can't become Hokage just by saying so. A boy who looked like a monkey stood up and retorted, I will be the next generation Hokage. My name is Asuma Saratobi, and I must prove my strength. Yuki Yuichi was watching from behind and sighed. At that time, Asuma was still a rebellious middle school boy. Damn you, I will definitely prove to you that I will be the first Hokage of Uchiha. Uchiha Obito jumped in angrily. Okay, Obito, please go back to your seat first. Umino Ikaku was almost overwhelmed. Less than 5 minutes after entering the classroom, I discovered 3 troublemakers' family members. Who knows? Chapter 6, Ninja Trainee. When Uchiha Obito returned to his seat, Ikaku Umino looked around and said, there's no need to come to the front from now on. Everyone, please introduce yourselves at your seats. Start from the front row. This time, Ikaku Umino learned his lesson and did not let people express themselves freely. Instead, he designated everyone to introduce themselves in turn, starting from the first row. The first person in the first row was a girl with a headband on her forehead. Her expression was a little dull. My name is Hinata Shia. I like to practice, hate cages, and my dream is to be a bird in the mountains. Hearing her self-introduction, Umino Ikaku sighed and thought silently in his heart, another child of the Hyuga branch family, but he didn't say anything. He was a commoner and the Hyuga family was a big family in Konoha. It would be useless for him to say anything. Next, hello everyone, my name is Shansahong's Hali. I like to hate dreams. Next, hello everyone, my name is Asami Kumo. I like to follow powerful ninjas. I hate evil gods, and my dream is world peace. Umino Ikaku mechanically repeated the next one. Yuki in the back row was listening to each person's self-introduction with great interest. Yuchi, why are you looking at her? Yuhi Kurenai noticed that his eyes were always on a girl with oil paint on her face, and she immediately pouted and spoke angrily. Yuki Yuichi turned his head and saw Yuhi Kurenai's appearance, and couldn't help but poke her cheeks, which were puffed up with anger. Hey, Hong. You're so cute like this. Hong's face turned red when she heard this, but she still puffed up her cheeks. I don't want your praise. I'm just looking at him. Yuki Yuichi pointed at Uchiha Obito, who was staring at Nahorin in his seat without blinking, and chuckled. His name seems to be Uchiha Obito, right? Kurenai looked in the direction of his finger and found that Uchiha Obito had been looking at the girl. Uchiha Obito was the first to introduce himself, and he even had an argument with Asuma Sarutobi, which left a strong impression. Yes, Yuki nodded, and then continued, he seems to like that girl, huh? Kurenai was stunned at first, then looked at Nahorin curiously. And then at Uchiha Obito just as the two of them were whispering. Yuminaiko coughed lightly. Only then did Yuki realize that it was his turn to introduce himself, and everyone in the classroom was looking at him. When Kurenai saw that the whole classroom had discovered that she and Yuki were whispering, her face immediately turned red. My name is Yuki Yuichi, the pillar of Konoha, the future of the ninja world, and the legend of the future ninja world. Everyone, this is the first time I've seen such a shameless guy. When the two teenagers who were often beaten by Yuki Yuichi heard this, they looked at each other and nodded. It was confirmed that this was the person they knew, and Kano Ikoku's mouth twitched. And he was speechless. He couldn't help but interrupt and said, just tell me what you like, what you hate, and what your dreams are. Oh, Yuki Yuichi curled his lips and introduced himself seriously. My name is Yuki Yuichi, I like to be with Hong, I hate a certain uncle, and my dream is to dance everywhere. As Yuki Yuichi finished his introduction, Yuminaiko called out in a formulaic manner, next, my name is Yuhi Kurenai, and I like being with Yuichi. Yuhi Kurenai's voice became smaller and smaller. Noticing everyone's gaze, she pursed her lips and raised her head and said, I like being with Yuichi, and I hate impolite people. My dream is to open a flower shop. Yuki Yuichi and Yuhi Kurenai were sitting in the last row against the wall. After Yuhi Kurenai finished introducing herself, Yuminaiko also breathed a sigh of relief at this time. In the Hokage's office, Sarutobi Hirozen stared at the crystal ball on the table, took a deep puff of the pipe in his hand, and then slowly exhaled the smoke. Hi, it seems like these two little guys from this Henhong family have quite different personalities. They grew up together, but why is one so naughty and the other so gentle? Sarutobi Hirozen couldn't understand how two people who grew up together could be so different. This time he used the crystal ball to watch the self-introductions of the freshmen. But it was specifically for Yuki, otherwise he wouldn't be so idle as to observe these new students enrolled in the ninja school. Next to the crystal ball, there is a document which clearly records all the information about Yuki, and in the name record of his parents, Sarutobi Hirozen was marked with a red mark. Father, Yuki Aomazu. Note, the survivors of the Vortex clan that were found. Mother, Yuki Haru, Uchiha Haru. Note, a little genius of the Uchiha clan is Yuki is a hybrid of the Uzumaki clan and the Uchiha clan. Sarutobi Hirozen really wants to see if he can inherit two bloodline limits. I hope I can inherit it. Things are not peaceful now. Sarutobi Hirozen took another deep puff of the pipe in his hand. At this moment in the classroom, as Kurenai sat down, a ding sound rang in Yuki's mind. Achievement, the beginning of ninja, self-introduction completed, officially entering the ninja school. Reward, Hiruno Sakura, Shippuden. Title obtained, ninja student, Hiruno Sakura, Shippuden. Skills, windmill hug attack, Sakura rush, kill true hit. I will definitely follow in your footsteps. Skill 1, windmill hug, hug the enemy, jump into the air and then drop heavily, causing a devastating blow. Skill 2, Sakura rush, gather chakra in your hands and smash the ground forward to attack. If there are enemies around, they will be blown away by the vibration of the ground. Skill 3, destroy in true strike, an extremely powerful ultimate attack that gathers a large amount of chakra in the hand, attacks forward twice in a row, then jumps into the air and smashes down heavily, hammering the enemy away. Ninja student, wearing this title will increase the effectiveness of ninjutsu by 10% and the effectiveness of training by 20%. Note, when wearing titles at the same time, you can only enjoy the effects of 3 titles. Looking at the achievement reward in front of him, Yuki was speechless for a long time. This Hiruno Sakura is just lame. What are the effects of these 3 skills? Pure physical technique, let alone using a template. Even without a template, Yuki can achieve this effect. Compared to Hiruno Sakura, his chakra is much more abundant. What a useless template, Yuki murmured in a low voice. However, this template is a waste template. But fortunately there is a consolation prize. Yuki immediately put on the title of ninja student. It can increase the power of ninjutsu and the speed of training. The effect of this title is more powerful than many ninja templates. Not bad, not a loss. Now that we have the cake, bread won't be too far away. Chapter 7. The will of fire is too heavy. Yuichi, why are you reading this book? Yuhi Kurenai looked at Yuki Yuichi, blinking her big eyes, holding a book of fire will in her hand and asked curiously after they introduced themselves. Ikoku Umino asked them to look at the textbooks first and wait for an hour before starting the formal class. Looking at the will of fire in his hand, Yuchi Yuki said casually, "The will of fire is very interesting, isn't it? There are about 10 books distributed by the school, the most important of which are the will of fire and the chakra refining method. In addition, there are assassination, stealing intelligence, ninja encyclopedia, mathematics, etc. However, all these books combined are not as thick as the will of fire. Some of them have seen it. This will of fire is not just a simple statement that where the leaves dance, the fire will continue. There are also many stories of voluntary dedication of ninjas, as well as many famous sayings of the third Hokage. If you want to survive in Konoha, you must fully understand the will of fire." Yuki Yuichi and Yuhi Kurenai looked through the books in their hands curiously. Not far from them, a young man who had been driven away earlier was looking at the chakra refining method in his hand with desire in his eyes. "Learn how to refine chakra, and you won't get beaten anymore after you have chakra. I will definitely take revenge." The boy looked at the chakra refining method in his hand and swore secretly, while also glancing in the direction of Yuki Yuichi. "What's so great about that? You're just relying on your ability to use chakra. Once I learn how to use chakra, I'll make sure you're in trouble." His voice was so soft that no one around him could hear it. Yuki naturally didn't know that someone was targeting him because of his behavior. If he knew, he would probably laugh his head off. In this world where bloodline is everything, a commoner actually has such thoughts. And putting aside the facts, Yuki started refining chakra at the age of 5. He was a full year ahead of them, so how could he be afraid of them just because they learned how to refine chakra? Time passed quickly amid everyone's discussion. The morning class's chakra refinement. Umino's explanation was very thorough, but it was of no use to Yuki Yuichi and Yuhi Kurenai. Both of them knew how to refine chakra a long time ago. Although Yuhi Shinku appeared a little irritable and was afraid that Yuki Yuichi would abduct her daughter, she was actually very gentle. What is shown is just what is shown. Yuki could clearly feel that Yuhi Shinku really treated him as family. "It's just that I feel a little unhappy seeing myself taking Zairihong away, but he was not stingy in teaching what should be taught." Yuhi Shinku is a Jonin of Konoha, but he has no family and does not have the secret medicine that has been passed down for many years in the major families in Konoha or in the ninja world. Chakra is best refined after the age of 6, as the child's development is basically complete at this time. After all, chakra is the product of energy extracted from human cells and spirit and combined together. It's not that I don't want to refine chakra before it's fully developed. After all, there are many illiterate people in the ninja world. The main reason is that they are young and have not developed well, so the blood cannot be extracted. However, this is only true for common people. Children from large families will be soaked in secret medicine to promote their development from an early age, so many ninja children can refine chakra at the age of 3, but unfortunately, Yuhi Shinku didn't have these things. The reason why Uchiha Yuyu and Yuhi Shinku were able to refine chakra at the age of 5 was because he exchanged some secret medicines at the Nara family. Yuhi Shinku and Uchiha Yuyu would soak in it every now and then. However, the big families attached great importance to these secret medicines. Even Yuhi Shinku could only get 1 or 2 packs occasionally, and they were all used by the 2 of them together. Therefore, one can only refine chakra at the age of 5 if Yuhi Shinku only has eyes for Yuhi Kurenai. Then even if Kurenai cannot refine chakra at the age of 3, she can at least refine it at the age of 4. A ninja's strength is easiest to improve during his youth. If Yuhi Kurenai had extracted chakra a year earlier, her upper limit would have been much higher. It is impossible for a senior ninja like Yuhi Kurenai to not understand this truth, but he still gave the secret medicine he got to the 2 of them for use together. So even though he was a little angry with him, Yuki Yuichi didn't say anything in the final analysis. "It's because I'm worried about someone else's daughter." He still has this bit of self-awareness. This is like having a yellow-haired kid at home. Anyone would be angry. While Yuki Yuichi was thinking about these things, Ikoku Umino on the stage was still talking about the chakra refining method. He spent the entire morning talking about the content of 3 or 4 pages, going back and forth over and over again. As for the students in the audience, except for those from common families, the rest were just staring blankly in boredom. Hatake Kakashi is one of them. "I should have sat in the back if I had known." Kakashi Hatake turned his head to look at Yuki in the back row, only to see him staring ahead with lifeless eyes. You can tell at a glance that he is in a daze, and next to him, Yuhi Kurenai kept staring at Umino Ikoku with her big eyes without blinking. Although she already knew this knowledge, it did not hinder her from wanting to be a good student. Just when Hatake Kakashi was about to turn around and continue to be in a daze, He caught a glimpse of a pervert sitting in the back seat out of the corner of his eye. He's an idiot. Hokage Kakashi glanced at Uchiha Obito and muttered to himself. Uchiha Obito was still looking at Naruto at this time, but now the teacher was talking about chakra refining techniques and the 10,000 techniques of ninja assassination in his hand. Although the teacher would be more lenient towards those students who had learned how to refine chakra in advance, and it was okay for them to daydream in class, Uchiha Obito was the first one to do so blatantly. There were many people daydreaming in the classroom. For example, the red-haired guy sitting by the window in the back row, a guy who looks like a monkey, a girl with black hair and the Kato clan crest on her clothes, as well as myself and the girl from the Hyuga branch family in front of me, etc. But there is only one person like Uchiha Obito. Just as Hokage Kakashi was complaining, Ikoku seemed unable to bear it anymore and swung the chalk in his hand, hitting Uchiha Obito directly on the forehead. Uchiha Obito, as Ikoku roared. Everyone in the classroom looked at Uchiha Obito. Uchiha Obito seemed to have just come to his senses at this moment. He suddenly heard the teacher's voice and stood up suddenly. I'm here, ha ha ha, he's so funny. Have all the Uchiha clan become like this? He's so stupid. Watching Uchiha Obito stand up in an instant, Ikoku thought silently that this was the first class of the new semester. He couldn't get angry, and he had to leave a good impression on the students, so he suppressed his anger, forced a smile, and asked, "Can you please tell me what this class is about?" If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 8. I'm Yuuki Yuichi, and I've beaten everyone. This class is about ninja assassination techniques, Uchiha Obito said, and raised the 10,000 techniques of ninja assassination in his hand, raised his head, and a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Teacher, am I right? Ikoku took a deep breath and closed his eyes silently. Can any of you tell him the name of this class? After Ikoku finished speaking, Kurenai Yuhi raised her little hand. Yuchi Yuichi glanced at her and then at Uchiha Obito. It should be fine. The prisoner was still a silly boy at that time and should not bear grudges. Seeing Kurenai raise her hand, Ikoku smiled with relief. From the very beginning, the girl named Kurenai had been listening attentively, even though there was a troublemaker next to her who was in a daze. Okay, then please ask Kurenai to tell him what this class is called. Ikoku spoke decisively. This class is called Chakra Refining Technique, Kurenai said, looking at Uchiha Obito, who was wearing goggles and blushing with shame after hearing her words. Sit down. Seeing Uchiha Obito's look, Ikoku sighed and continued. Although many students have learned the chakra refining technique in advance, they must not be careless, otherwise they will be surpassed by others. Let's continue next. After saying this, Ikoku continued with his lecture. He was still talking about the chakra refining technique over and over again. After listening to a few words, Yuichi was deeply impressed by his teaching ability. In just 3 or 4 pages, he was able to provide repeated explanations and analyses without repeating himself. Although it was of little use to him, for ordinary people, every word of his explanation was key. Chakra extraction technique extracts energy from cells and spirits, and if you are not careful you can hurt yourself. A detailed explanation like that given by Ikoku can help avoid these dangers to the greatest extent. Yuichi, that Uchiha doesn't seem to be very smart. Kurenai poked his hand and said in a low voice, looking at Ikoku timidly. Upon hearing this, Yuichi glanced at Uchiha Obito, who was lowering his head and blushing, and said, it is indeed different from the Uchiha I have beaten before. Looks silly, isn't it? Zihahong said proudly, like a little peacock who was recognized. I was very careful in my observation. Kurenai finished speaking, then reacted, put her index finger in her mouth, tilted her head and looked at him. Have you ever beaten anyone from the Uchiha clan? I do not know how. Hearing Kurenai's puzzled question, Yuichi immediately put his hands on his hips and said proudly, I have beaten a lot of people. The Hyuga clan, the Inuzuka clan, the Aburain clan, the Uchiha clan, the Gekau clan, I've beaten them all. Yuichi makes no secret of who he has beaten up over the years. He has been hanging around outside when he has nothing to do. In order to trigger the achievement reward, almost all of his peers from the families in Konoha have been beaten by him. In addition to the children of the ninja clan, many naughty children from civilian families were also beaten. Zihahong felt a little confused when she heard that. Time passed as the two of them talked, and Yumino Ikoku's first class lasted until lunchtime just as he was about to announce the end of get out of class. A teacher walked in with a teenager in green tights as soon as he entered the classroom. He smiled at Ikoku Yumino and said, "Teacher Yumino, this is a student who has admitted with special approval. The Hokage asked me to bring him here, a special approval student. Yes, I passed the special talent test." The teacher who brought the person in said, "Now that I have brought the person, I will leave first. Okay, you go get busy first." After he left, Yumino Ikoku looked at Might Guy, smiled and said, "Please introduce yourself first." "Okay." Might Guy showed him his shiny white teeth and gave him a thumbs up. Well, Ikoku Yumino looked at Might Guy and his mouth twitched. It seemed that another abnormal student had come. "My name is Might Guy. I'm good at physical skills. I will definitely become an excellent ninja in the future." After Might Guy finished speaking, he gave everyone a thumbs up. Hatake Kakashi looked at the hand he extended and couldn't help but frown. He saw scars on Might Guy's hands just like his father said, but he didn't believe that Might Guy would become his rival. Rather than believing that this guy will become his opponent, it is better to. Hatake Kakashi thought about it and turned his head to look at a red-haired guy who was sitting by the window in the back seat and was talking secretly and pointing at Kurenai. He had fought with this red-haired guy before, and in terms of pure physical strength, Yuki Yuichi was stronger than him. You have to know that Kakashi Hatake has been practicing since he was a child, and people like Uchiha Yuichi who can surpass him with their physical strength are the ones you should pay attention to. As if he noticed someone was watching him, Yuki Yuichi looked up and found Hatake Kakashi. Their eyes met in the air. The two looked at each other for a few seconds, and Yuki Yuichi smiled at him and waved. At this moment, Ikoku Yumino simply said a few words to Might Guy and then announced the end of get out of class. The class hours at ninja school are from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. and from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. according to Uncle Shinhong. The courses in the ninja school are theory in the morning and practice in the afternoon. However, the first grade is purely theoretical, mainly teaching students how to refine chakras and learn to read. Yes, most civilian students are illiterate. As Ikoku Yumino walked out of the classroom, Kakashi Hatake walked towards Uchiha Yuichi. "Woo Kai. Is there something wrong?" Seeing Hatake Kakashi coming over, Yuki Yuichi asked curiously. "If I was not mistaken, he was a little disgusted with me in the morning." "Fight me again, huh?" Yuki Yuichi was stunned when he heard this, and Yuhi Kurenai next to him was also stunned. Yuki Yuichi thought about it and politely refused. "Another fight? Didn't you lose badly last time? Better say goodbye." Hearing his words, Hatake Kakashi clenched his fists, a little angry. "Stop talking nonsense. Last time was just an accident." "Really? It's 50-50. You really can't do it now." Yuki Yuichi shook his head and sighed. "This time I will use Hatake swordsmanship." Hatake Kakashi gritted his teeth. He originally just wanted to see if Uchiha Yuichi had made any progress, but it was really infuriating last time. It was just a matter of one move. "But last time I pinned you to the ground and beat you right from the start." Uchiha Yuichi told the truth. But when he saw Kakashi Hatake looking unconvinced, he sighed. "I really can't do anything about you, so I agree." Chapter 9. The battle begins. Kakashi's strength was actually not enough to defeat him, and pinning him to the ground and beating him was no joke. But this was when he didn't use his sword skills. In fact, Yuki Yuichi was also very curious. If Kakashi used his family's inherited Hatake swordsmanship this time and he didn't cheat, could he defeat him? Although there are template bonuses from the Seventh Hokage and Haruno Sakura, the template does not inherit the physique. The template actually only gives those 3 skills. If you have bloodline, you will be given an extra bloodline limit. In other words, the reason why Uchiha Yuichi is strong now is because of the bloodline of the Uzumaki clan and the 20% damage reduction granted by the ninja taijutsu defense. There is also a 10% ninjutsu enhancement bonus from a ninja student. Just as Uchiha Yuichi was thinking about it, the people around him became excited when they heard that there was something fun to watch. They didn't know Kakashi, nor did they know Uchiha Yuichi. There was no family crest on their clothes. Great. Fight. Fight. There were 2 students nearby who were watching the fun and were shouting at each other to start a fight. Kurenai Yuhi, who was standing next to Yuki Yuichi, tugged at his sleeve with some concern. "Wouldn't it be a bad idea to fight on the first day of school? Dad told us not to make trouble." Hearing what Yuhi Kurenai said, Uchiha Yuichi chuckled. "Don't worry, it's just a battle." If Uncle Zhenhong knew, he would definitely understand. When Zairi Hong heard this, she knew she couldn't stop it, so she stopped talking immediately. But the worry in her eyes did not diminish in the slightest. "Okay then," Yuhi Kurenai said, then took out a bandage from her pocket. "Fortunately I brought this." You can use it in case either of you gets hurt. Kurenai Yuhi waved a bandage in her hand in front of Kakashi and Yuki Yuichi. Hong is so gentle, I like it so much, damn it. Such a gentle girl was snatched away by someone, how can I repair it? Yuhi Kurenai's actions made many boys in the classroom show hostility towards Yuki Yuichi. When Yuchi Yuki heard these words, he narrowed his eyes and looked at the two boys who said they loved me but were taken away by someone else, and silently memorized their appearance in his heart. Good boys, after I beat Wu-Wake, it will be your turn, let's go to the training ground now. Kakashi looked at Yuchi Yuki, his fists clenched, and the fire of revenge burning in his eyes. This time, I will definitely let you know what Hokage swordsmanship is. Kakashi left a harsh remark and walked out of the classroom. Yuki Yuichi followed directly, and as the two of them moved, almost everyone in the classroom followed them. Uchiha Obito walked beside Nahara. Lin, what's so good about this, Lin? Let's go have lunch. Uchiha Obito and Nahara knew each other before as one of the rare moral role models in Konoha. Uchiha Obito met Nahara, who was also doing good deeds when he was helping an old lady cross the street. He fell in love at first sight, but I have never dared to express my feelings. Hearing what Uchiha Obito said, Nahara showed a worried look. Obito, we are all classmates. It would be bad if you get hurt. I learned bandaging from Sister Tomako in the hospital. If they get hurt, I can help. Ahoha, that's how it is. Uchiha Obito laughed awkwardly, then scratched his head and said, I can help too. I am from the Uchiha clan. When they can't control themselves, I will go up and stop them. Uchiha Obito's words made Nahara even more worried. They have known each other for more than half a year, and she knows what Obito is like. Although Uchiha Obito is from the Uchiha clan, he is different from other Uchiha clan members. He has a good personality, is helpful, and is sunny and cheerful, but he is a little unreliable. While the two of them were talking, they arrived at their destination. Kakashi stood on the field, took out his wooden sword for training, and looked at Yuki Yuichi, but Yuki Yuichi showed no sign of weakness. He jumped directly in front of him and tied his hands with bandages. The two men faced each other, about 10 meters apart, and formed a seal of opposition at the same time. Cool, there's no way you can beat me. I will definitely beat you, Kakashi said seriously, pulling out the wooden sword in his hand and holding it with both hands. Also, my name is Hokage Kakashi, asshole. Kakashi shouted Baka and rushed straight towards Yuki Yuichi. I will never consider an enemy defeated by me as my opponent. I will give you time to catch up until you are out of sight, bastard. Kakashi's face turned red with anger when he heard Yuchi Yuki's words. So handsome. Kakashi was very angry, but the female classmates around him had stars in their eyes. Seeing this, Yuhi Kurenai looked down at herself, then clenched her fists. Yuchi is mine, he won't like anyone else. The boys had a completely opposite reaction to the girls. Damn it, he tricked me, what a jerk. He already has a girlfriend, but he still wants to hook up with girls. Let's beat him up together after school. It is good. Although Yuchi Yuki was pretending to be brave, he was still very cautious when fighting against Kakashi. This was a guy who graduated at the age of 6, became a chunin at the age of 7, and became a jonin at the age of 12 in the entire Konoha. Apart from the two hanging walls, Hoshirama Senju and Madara Uchiha, perhaps only Minato Namikaze's talent is slightly stronger than Kakashi. When the original story began, Kakashi had been depressed for a long time. Even installing Uchiha Obito's eyes would be a burden for him. My thoughts were so mixed up that only a moment passed. Kakashi approached him in just a moment and swung the wooden sword in his hand straight towards his neck. Kakashi was very fast and the students around him exclaimed in surprise, but in Yuchi Yuki's opinion, he was still a little slow and dodged Kakashi's downward slash by turning his body to the side. Kakashi seemed to have expected this, and his wooden sword turned halfway and slashed towards Yuki Yuichi's waist. If it was a real sword, if this sword hid him, Yuchi Yuki would at least be cut in half. Kakashi's two simple moves may seem simple, but in fact, each move is aimed at killing with one blow. Kakashi's movements were very fast, both in speed and in sword swinging, but when he turned from a downward strike to horizontal slash, there was a moment of pause, and this momentary pause was enough for Yuchi Yuki to react to the astonishment of the onlookers. He leaned back, supported himself with his hands, and flipped backwards, carrying Kakashi's sword with him. Chapter 10, Is it okay, bro? While Yuchi Yuki dodged, his right foot flew into the air and kicked Kakashi's hand. The kick was so powerful that even Kakashi, who had been taught by Hokage Tsukumo not to let go of his sword, had his sword slipped out of his hand if he just wanted to dodge. Yuchi Yuki could have just squatted down or moved to the side, being able to dodge and fight back at the same time. This is the romance that Yuchi Yuki pursues. Kakashi let go, and Yuchi Yuki wrapped the wooden sword and finished with a backflip. The wooden sword that was originally in Kakashi's hand appeared in Yuchi Yuki's hand. Yuki Yuichi raised the wooden sword in his hand and immediately revealed a mocking smile. Is it okay, little brother? Okay, bro, if I can't do that, I'll be like those guys who went home crying and calling for their moms after being beaten, and their parents will come and make trouble for me. This kid really deserves a beating. Kano Ikoku was standing at the window of his office. A teacher next to him couldn't help but look at him and spoke with a smile. Teacher Yumino, those students seem to be from the class you teach, right? Yeah. Kano Ikoku held his forehead with his hand, feeling a bit of a headache at this time. Another teacher who looked older blew on the thermos cup in his hand and shook his head, saying, there seem to be a lot of troublemakers in this class. Yumino, you have a hard time. It's not easy to teach such a talented student. They could see the whole process in the office, and they observed the entire process of the battle between Yuchi Yuki and Kakashi even though they were just 2 or 3 simple moves. They had been teaching for so many years that they could naturally see that both Kakashi and Yuki Yuichi had the strength of a Jonin on the court. Kakashi couldn't stand the trash talk from Yuchi Yuki and immediately rushed forward without his sword. He still has his fists and physical skills. Yuchi Yuki just stood there, responding to all changes with his calmness, while still talking trash. Is it okay? If not, go back and drink milk for 2 more years. No way, no way. There won't be another person whose knife can be taken away by others, right? Just as Yuki Yuichi was speaking, Kakashi had already swung his fist. He won't hide this time. He took Kakashi's sword because he wanted to test his ability to withstand beatings. That's right, the 20% damage reduction of ninjutsu defense. He wanted to see what was going on. Seeing Kakashi punching towards him, Yuchi Yuki punched back without dodging. Seeing him like this, Kakashi's eyes flashed with surprise, but then he became more excited. Come on, let's see who can take a beating more. Come on, 50-50. In just a moment, the attacks from the two men hit each other hard. Kakashi punched Yuki Yuichi in the abdomen, and Yuki Yuichi kicked Kakashi in the shoulder. The two of them flew out at the same time. Yuchi, seeing this, Kurenai looked at Yuchi Yuki anxiously from the side, her little face full of worry, but she did not step forward to stop him. This is a battle between ninjas, even if it is a sparring match, even if these are 2 freshmen who have just entered the school. Hong, I'm fine. Yuchi Yuki stood up and brushed off the dust on his body. Kakashi's punch was very powerful, and he also understood this so-called damage reduction mechanism when Kakashi's fist touched him just now. He could clearly feel that the fist was lighter. The force transmitted to him was also greatly reduced, but even so, he only felt a burning pain in his lower abdomen. He is like this, but Kakashi is different. If he was hit by a heavy object, then Kakashi felt like he was hit by a carriage. He stood up tremblingly, covering his left arm, and his left arm was presented to everyone in a distorted state. Hiss, isn't this too much? Is this what fighting is like? Stop it, don't fight anymore. The classmates around them were trying to persuade them to stop, but neither Yuki Yuichi nor Kakashi paid any attention. Kakashi covered his left arm, gritted his teeth and raised it up. The bones made a crisp sound. Yuki Yuichi's kick dislocated his hand. Kakashi panted, hugged his left arm, looked at Yuki Yuichi, and roared through gritted teeth. Yuki Yuichi, knock knock. Yuki Yuichi was no less angry and also roared. The two men shouted and howled at each other's names at the same time. Just when everyone thought they were going to fight again, they retreated in tacit understanding. Kakashi's left hand was dislocated, and although it has been reattached now, it is still a bit inconvenient and he didn't want to fight with Yuchi Yuki in close combat again. This kick directly destroyed most of his arrogance, but Yuchi Yuki is not afraid of Kakashi's fist, but he is a little afraid of pain. Why are you retreating? Kakashi looked at Yuchi Yuki calmly and imitated him to mock. You must be afraid, right? Bullshit. Yuki Yuichi cursed. Even if you're scared, I won't be scared. What are you withdrawing from? You're the one who's scared, right? Yuki Yuichi said, pouting his lips and looking like he deserved a beating. Kukoshi-chan, you're so scary. Kakashi narrowed his eyes, looked at Yuchi Yuki who was still talking trash, and quietly formed seals with his hands. Yuki Yuichi also narrowed his eyes, talked trash, and quietly formed hand seals. When everyone saw this, they thought that their plan was over, but at this moment, Kakashi took a deep breath and gathered his chakra in his throat. Art fire escape whole fireball, grass, a plant. Yuki Yuichi saw this and immediately ran to the side, cursing as he ran. Old coin, you gave birth to a son but no little JJ. Yuki Yuichi was running while making hand seals. Kakashi has already thrown out a huge fireball. so he doesn't pretend anymore. The fireball does not fly in a straight line once it is spit out. The great fireball technique is actually very similar to a flamethrower. Gather the chakra in the throat and then spray it out directly. The chakra sprayed out from the mouth will turn into flames and spray in front. This is also the key to Yuki Yu's ability to make hand seals while running. The main reason was that Kakashi kept breathing fire at him. Magic. This is not the art. Yuki Yuichi finished the hand seal and rushed into Kakashi's side and waved at him. This illusion was taught to him and Kurenai by Yuhi Shinku for practice. It took him more than a year to master it. However, although it is a little difficult to learn, the effect of this illusion is still very powerful. Once hit, the opponent can confuse the space and think this place is another place. Gang Ziti in the original novel used this illusion the moment Kakashi saw Yuki Yuichi. He was immediately hit. Yuki Yuichi was on the left, and he turned his mouth to the right. Little punk. It's my turn now, Yuki. Yuichi rushed forward and kicked Kakashi in the chin. The powerful force made Kakashi faint. Instantly seeing Kakashi fall to the ground, Yuki Yuichi rubbed his chin, thought for a moment, then grabbed the back of his collar and ran towards the infirmary. Chapter 11. You won, Kun. You are awesome. Looking at Yuki's fast speed, Rin Naho looked at the ointment prepared in her hand and shook her head in disappointment. I'm going to go up and help deal with it, but they can handle it better in the infirmary than I can. Obito, these two are so strong, Naho-Lin said with a bright smile on her face, then looked at Uchiha Obito and said, we have to work hard too. Looking at Naho-Lin's brilliant smile, Uchiha Obito clenched his hands and said stubbornly, I was just about to go up and stop it. It's a pity that they finished just as we were about to go up. Looking at Uchiha Obito's appearance, Naho-Rin smiled sweetly and did not expose him. Obito is also great, hearing her praise. Uchiha Obito scratched his head and smiled foolishly. Not bad. In front of them, Kurenai Yuhi watched Uchiha Yuyu dragging Kakashi towards the infirmary, pursed her lips, and trotted after them. Although she is not as strong as Yuki Yuichi and Kakashi, and her physique is not as good as theirs, she has refined chakra. After all, gathering chakra in her legs, Kurenai Yuhi's speed is also extremely fast. So under the gaze of everyone, Zairi Hong flashed and rushed out in an instant. That's great. A civilian girl who had been standing next to Zari Kurenai couldn't help but have a hint of envy in her eyes when she saw Zari Kurenai's speed. Although she was enrolled in school and was able to learn how to refine chakra, she knew that she might never be able to catch up with her classmates who had refined chakra in advance. While Zairi Hong was chasing, several teachers who were watching the fun in the teacher's office also closed the windows. They could naturally see that Kakashi was not seriously injured. If there had been a huge loss, someone would have rushed down long ago. Where am I? Why can't I breathe? Kakashi opened his eyes dazedly, but the first feeling he had was that he couldn't breathe. When he regained consciousness, he found himself standing on his heels and someone was pulling him by the collar, taking him somewhere unknown. Kakashi immediately struggled. Huh? Noticing Kakashi's actions, Yuki exclaimed in surprise, then stopped and released his hand that was holding the back of Kakashi's collar. As Yuki let go, Kakashi instantly sat down on the ground, his whole body shook, and his mind was suddenly confused. You woke up so quickly. Yuki Yuichi was really a little curious. His kick was very powerful, directly hitting Kakashi on the chin, but Kakashi woke up so quickly. After hearing what Yuki said, Kakashi came back to his senses from his daze, stood up from the ground, touched his butt and took a deep breath. The ground was hard, and Yuki Yuichi pulled him up very high, so there was no cushioning at all and his head was dizzy. Kakashi rubbed his butt and gasped as he replied, I've been taking medicinal baths since I was a kid, so my physique is much stronger than the average person. He doesn't hate Yuki Yuichi so much now. Although he defeated him, this time it was fair and square, and he was convinced. Oh, Yuki only reacted at this time. Although the Hokage family was not a family, its strength should not be underestimated. His father Hokage Tsukumo was even known as the White Fang of Konoha. It's not difficult to just give Kakashi a medicinal bath. Just as the two were silent, Kurenai Yuhi came over and saw Kakashi rubbing his butt and Yuki staring at his crotch without blinking. And she was stunned for a moment. This scene is weird no matter how you look at it. Although she knew that there was nothing possible between the two of them, Kurenai Yuhi still inevitably had wrong thoughts. However, this was in the world of Naruto, so it was very reasonable after all. This world is famous for its precocious maturity. You and the rest of you. Kurenai pointed at Kakashi and frowned at Yuki Yuichi. Hong, you're here. Yuhi Hong frowned, but Yuki Yuichi was delighted to see her. This guy is fine, we can go eat now. Oh. After hearing this, Kurenai stopped worrying about it and went to have dinner with Yuki Yuichi. Kakashi stood there watching the two men leaving, and for a moment he didn't know what to say. He also wanted to discuss the review of the previous battle with Yuki Yuichi, but looking at the two of them, Kakashi didn't go and make things difficult for himself. Oh, Kakashi. Just as Kakashi was about to leave, another person chased after him. Might Guy watched Kakashi rubbing his butt silently by himself, and immediately jumped out. My lifelong rival, are you okay? Looking at the outgoing Might Guy, Kakashi ignored him. Among all his classmates, only a few could arouse his interest, and obviously, Might Guy is not among them. However, Kakashi's indifference did not make Might Guy give up, but made him more enthusiastic. Would you like to eat together? I'll give you some of my lunchbox. My dad made me a beef bento. No thanks. Kakashi walked in front and Might Guy kept talking behind. However, Yuki Yuichi and Yuhi Kurenai were going in the completely opposite direction from the other two of them. Yuchi, what are we having for lunch? Yuhi Kurenai rubbed her belly. She ate something in the morning, but she didn't eat much, and at noon, she did feel hungry. However, Yuhi Shinku did not prepare lunchboxes for the two of them. I wonder if she forgot something. Hearing what Yuhi Kurenai said, Yuki Yuichi grinned. Of course we're going out to eat. Yuhi Shinku did not prepare a lunchbox, but based on his understanding of this daughter-slave man, even if he had forgotten, he should have remembered it now. Yuchi, did your father give you money? Zihong asked curiously. After hearing his words, Yuki Yuichi shook his head. No, but I feel like Uncle Zihong is right at the school gate. Huh? Zihong blinked her big watery eyes and looked at him in surprise. Uncle Shinku is still very reliable. Yuki Yuichi did not explain, but took her little hand and walked towards the school gate. After a while, hiss. What can I say to make Hong not angry? When Yuhi Shinku was thinking about how to calm her daughter down at the school gate, she looked up and saw Yuki Yuichi and his partner jogging towards her hand in hand. Seeing this, Yuhi Shinku, who was still thinking just now, took a deep breath and forced a smile on his face. Just when he was about to speak, Yuhi Shiku's surprised voice reached his ears. Yuchi, you are so awesome. Dad is actually here. Hearing Yuhi Kurenai's praise, Yuchi Yuichi immediately straightened his chest and raised his head. Of course, I am Yuchi Yuichi. Chapter 12 Wild Horses. When did I become a background board? Looking at her daughter surrounding a red-haired guy with stars in her eyes, Zihong couldn't help but fall into deep thought. Just as he was thinking, Yuki Yuichi and Yuhi Kurenai came over. Looking at his thoughtful look, Yuki Yuichi coughed lightly. Cough cough. Uncle Zihong, are you here to bring us lunchboxes? Yuki Yuichi's words brought Yuhi Shinku back to her senses from her thoughts, and she glared at him fiercely. Seeing this, Yuhi Kurenai glared back at him in a very cute way. Before Yuki Yuichi could make any move, Dad, don't be so mean to Yuchi. Hearing her daughter's words, Yuhi Shinku took a deep breath and calmed her complicated emotions. This little cotton padded jacket is leaking. Although she lamented in her heart, Yuhi Shinku still took out two bento boxes, handed them to Yuki Yuichi, and said, I forgot to prepare bento boxes for you too. I bought this lunchbox outside. Yuhi Shinku stuffed both bento boxes into Yuki Yuichi's hands. It was not easy to glare at him with his daughter around, but the two lunchboxes were still quite heavy, so letting the boy carry them all by himself was considered a form of revenge. Yuhi Shinku thought silently, but soon he was stunned. When did I actually think like this? Damn little devil, my whole family has fallen into his hands. Yuhi Shinku looked at Yuki Yuichi again and then sighed. If you don't suffer the consequences of your own sins, then who will? Although this kid is a little eccentric, he is also, probably a good kid. There were a lot of thoughts in her mind, but only a moment passed. After Yuhi Shinku stuffed the lunchbox to Yuki Yuichi, she said goodbye before leaving. For some reason, he looked at Yuki Yuichi and asked casually, you didn't get into trouble, did you? Huh? Yuki, who was about to pull Yuhi Kurenai away, became unhappy when he heard this. What do you mean I shouldn't have gotten into trouble? I've never been in trouble, Yuki Yuichi retorted indignantly. I did not interrupt the teacher's lecture today, nor did I skip class. Can I get into trouble? Upon hearing this, Zihong nodded and said, that's true. What kind of trouble can you get into in a ninja school? Just then, Kakashi walked over here. When Might Guy saw Yuki Yuichi, he immediately gave him a thumbs up and grinned. Yuchi, I saw everything just now. So strong, you are worthy of being my lifelong rival. My classmates are all saying that you are in the limelight. The expression on Yuhi Shiku's face, which had just finished speaking, suddenly froze. Didn't you say you didn't cause any trouble? Yes, Yuki Yuichi said confidently. Just after class, Kakashi wanted to challenge me in a one-on-one duel, and I agreed. Sparring during break time shouldn't cause any trouble, right? Upon hearing this, Yuhi Shinku looked at Kakashi, who was next to my guy who had just spoken. Kakashi's body was covered with dust that couldn't be shaken off, and there was an obvious mark on his chin because of the black mask he was wearing. Besides, his left hand was swinging unnaturally, and it seemed that he was injured. He looked so dirty and grimy, and I felt sorry for him. Yuki Yuichi also looked over, but was stunned when he saw the marks on Kakashi's mask. It seems like he forgot to take off his mask to see what he looked like. Damn white-haired Kakashi, he must have cast an illusion to make me forget about this. Yuki Yuichi silently complained in his heart. Kakashi also saw Yuhi Shinku and walked over to explain, "Uncle Shinku, I took the initiative to fight him, the loss was my own fault." Yuhi Shinku glanced at Kakashi, sighed, and took out an ointment from the pocket behind him. "This is the ointment for healing. Take it, next time, let this kid be like you now." Kakashi looked at the ointment in his hand, stunned for a moment, then silently took it. "I certainly will." Hearing his words, Zihi's Henhong laughed and patted his right shoulder. "Then I'll wait for your good news, okay?" Looking at the two of them singing the same tune, Yuki Yuichi looked at Yuhi Shinku suspiciously. "I always feel that this old guy has bad intentions." After chatting briefly with a few people, Zihi's Henhong left. The afternoon class was still taught by Ikoku Yumino. Just like in the morning, he was still teaching the chakra refining technique, but in the afternoon, in addition to the chakra refining technique, he was also teaching illiterate students to read. This made Yuki bored for the entire afternoon. After finally waiting until the school was over, the moment the bell rang, Yuki Yuichi jumped out of the second-floor window with Yuhi Kurenai in a flash. Woohoo! School is over. Following Yuki Yuichi's action, the entire classroom suddenly fell silent. Yumino Ikoku, who was in the middle of a lecture and was about to finish the page in his textbook before going home, turned pale. The same is true for most other students in the classroom. A few students sitting near the window leaned down to look, and saw Yuki Yuichi running straight towards the school gate like a wild horse, and Yuhi Kurenai, who was originally being pulled, was now lying on his chest with a red face, and he was carrying her like a princess as she ran. Ikoku Yumino took a deep breath, walked to the window, and was ready to use the lion roar to call back Yuki Yuichi. Kakashi, who was sitting in the front row by the window, also saw Yuki Yuichi's appearance. After a little thought, he silently opened the closed window, then jumped up and rushed out like a big black rat. Yuki Yuichi felt uncomfortable, and he felt uncomfortable too. He had already learned what Ikoku Yumino taught him. He could still pretend to be in a daze in the morning, but in the afternoon he really couldn't stand it anymore. You can't just sit there in a daze for the whole day. And it looked like Mr. Yumino was still going to give a lecture, so he might as well pretend he didn't know and just run away like Yuki Yuichi did. Of course, Yumino Ikoku, who was standing by, had no idea of Kakashi's thoughts. He was preparing to use the lion's roar technique, but just as he was about to roar, he saw a white-haired boy wearing a mask also rushing out from the corner of his eye. Kakashi's action seemed to have ignited a powder keg. All the students in the classroom who had learned chakra, except Uchiha Ibito, rushed out together. As for why Uchiha Ibito didn't run away, those who understand will understand, and those who don't understand won't understand. Even if I tell you like Kakashi, any student who has learned the chakra refining technique can no longer stand this kind of lecture. They were not fools. Kakashi could see that the teacher still wanted to teach, so they could naturally see that too under Yumino Ikoku's stunned gaze. In just a moment, only 1/3 of the students were left in the classroom. Chapter 13 Uzumaki Kushina. Looking at the few remaining students in the classroom, Kano Ikoku sighed, walked to the podium, sorted out his teaching materials, and then said helplessly, "Let's go home." Yumino Ikoku said, paused and looked around, finally resting his gaze on Uchiha Ibito for a moment, and continued, "But you can't slack off after school, you are already one class behind. Those who just ran out are students with chakra, they are inherently better than you. You have to work 200 times harder to catch up with them." Ikoku Yumino is in charge of Class A, in other words, he is in charge of the elite class. However, not all of them are ninja students. There are ninja students and civilian students in every class. Even the Class A that he leads is the same. The ninja students with the best entrance test scores and the civilian students with the best grades will be assigned to his class. This is Konoha's tradition. The same is true for subsequent classes. Seeing everyone looking somewhat inferior, Yumino Ikoku sighed. In every class he taught, the common students among them basically had some inferiority complex. This is due to inferiority complex and family inability he can't change. While Ikoku Yumino was giving everyone an earnest warning, Yuki Yuichi had already run out of the school carrying the blushing Kurenai. Just as they rushed out onto the street, Uzumaki Kushina happened to pass by, preparing to go eat at a Chiriko ramen. As a result, Just as I reached the gate of the ninja school, I suddenly saw Yuki Yuichi rushing out holding Yuhi Kurenai, and I immediately smiled like an auntie. Yuichi. Put me down, Yuhi Kurenai whispered in his arms, and if it weren't for Yuki Yuichi's good hearing, he would hardly be able to hear what she said, seeing that everyone around them was looking at them and smiling. Yuki's face turned red. Even though he was thick-skinned enough, he still felt embarrassed to put Zhe Hong on the ground. If you do this again, I will. Zhe Hong thought for a long time, and finally blushed, pouted and said angrily, I will ignore you for 3 days. Yuki Yuichi scratched his head, then grabbed Yuhi Kurenai's hand, and the two looked at each other. Kurena, I didn't mean it. When he was about to say something, he suddenly felt someone behind him. Thinking it was Zehe's Hong, his heart started beating wildly. He was so scared that he quickly turned his head and saw that it was Uzumaki Kushina. Only then did Uchiha Yuichi slowly exhale and the tension in his heart subsided. If it really is Yuhi Shinku, I will probably get beaten again. I don't know why. Even though Yuhi Kurenai is not from the Hyuga clan, he can always feel the white eyes from the people around him. Kid, you look very nervous. Seeing Yuki Yuichi's performance, Uzumaki Kushina looked at him with a smile. Why? The future legend of the ninja world is hooking up with a little girl at school, and is afraid that her family will find out. Uzumaki Kushina narrowed her eyes slightly and teased upon hearing this. Yuki immediately jumped up and argued, how is that possible? I just thought there was danger. Really? Uzumaki Kushina still looked at him with a half smile, but after seeing Yuhi Kurenai's blushing face, she said nothing. The scene of Yuki Yuichi rushing out holding Yuhi Kurenai just now reminded her of the scene when she was a child when Namokaze Minato saved her from being kidnapped by another village and then carried her away. Minato held himself like this at that time. As Kushina Uzumaki thought about it, she couldn't help but smile happily. She seemed to be lying in Minato's arms with a blushing face just like this little girl. That was also from then on that Minato and I started dating Yuki Yuichi raised his head and looked at Uzumaki Kushina's smile. He felt a little strange for a moment, but he couldn't put his finger on it. I am a fake member of the Uzumaki clan, but now I have encountered the real ones, so I always feel a little guilty. Yuki never thought that he had the blood of the Uzumaki clan, and this matter was no secret among the top leaders. Seeing that Uzumaki Kushina seemed to have fallen into trance, Yuki calmly took a few steps back, then grabbed Kurenai's little hand and ran for his life. With his movement, Uzumaki Kushina woke up from her memories. Looking at Yuichi's running back, she couldn't help but smile. Not long after, Yuki Yuichi and Yuhi Kurenai stopped at another street. Yuhi Kurenai opened her mouth, panted slightly, and asked curiously, Yuichi, why are we running? I don't know, but I just want to stay away. Before Yuki Yuichi could finish, Uzumaki Kushina's voice came from above. What do you want to stay away from? Yuki Yuichi's expression paused, then he said without blushing or beating his heart, it's a pity to stay away from school. I can't talk to that beautiful sister just now. I hope you really think so, little brat. Uzumaki Kushina jumped down from the roof, then used both hands to rub Yuki Yuichi's hair, making it look like a mess. Don't touch my head. I hate it the most when someone touches my head. Yuki Yuichi slapped Uzumaki Kushina's hand away, then fixed his hairstyle and looked at her with a resentful look on his face. I will definitely get it back later, Tisk. That day will never come. Uzumaki Kushina sneered and stretched out her hands, but Yuki Yuichi dodged them. I will develop a head-patting ninjutsu by then, and you won't be able to resist it. Let's talk about it when the time comes. Uzumaki Kushina blinked at Yuhi Kurenai, then spoke with a smile. I was planning to eat here, and since you're here too, I'll treat you to ramen. Uzumaki Kushina pointed to Chiriko ramen behind Yuki Yuichi and Yuhi Kurenai, and led them in, while introducing, I really like this ramen. It tastes very good, ha, as long as the customers like it. The hand that was doing the craft work heard what Uzumaki Kushina said and laughed a few times. I swear to make the best ramen in the world. Yuhi Kurenai looked at the surrounding arrangements curiously, then pursed her lips and looked at Uzumaki Kushina. Sister, we have to go back to eat. The cute look of Kurenai Yuhi made Uzumaki Kushina's maternal love burst out, and she hugged her. It's okay, I'll explain it to your father then. Kurenai Yuhi was in Uzumaki Kushina's arms, feeling a little breathless due to the two huge breasts. Yuki Yuichi was a little envious, then looked at Yuhi Kurenai's thin little body and thought silently that he hoped he could have such treatment in the future, as if she also felt what Kurenai Yuhi felt. Uzumaki Kushina let her go and looked at Yuki Yuichi. Chapter 14. I already have Uzumaki bloodline. Little boy, order whatever you want to eat. When it comes to treating Yuki Yuichi, Uzumaki Kushina is not as gentle as Yuhi Kurenai. Yuki Yuichi didn't care either. This is his first time to come to Ichiriko Ramen. When he was running around the streets wanting to achieve his goal, he didn't even think of Ichiriko Ramen. It's not that he didn't want to come, it's just that he never remembered that there was such a place in Naruto. Now that Uzumaki Kushina brought him here, he remembered that this seemed to be the place where Konoha needed to check in the most. Looking at the menu hanging on the wall, Yuki Yuichi stroked his chin and thought for a moment, then said, "I want a tonkatsu ramen with an extra Naruto roll." "Okay," he responded with a smile, then looked at Uzumaki Kushina and Yuhi Kurenai. "I want a bowl of salt ramen," Uzumaki Kushina said with a smile, then looked at Yuhi Kurenai beside her and said gently, "Hey, just tell me what you want to eat, don't be polite with your sister." Yuhi Kurenai looked at her, then looked at Yuki Yuichi, and said shyly, "I want a bowl of tonkatsu ramen, thank you." "Okay, please wait a moment, sir." Shouta still spoke with a smile, and then he got busy with his craft. "By the way, I haven't asked your name yet." The three of them sat down. Uzumaki Kushina looked at Yuhi Kurenai and said, "My name is Uzumaki Kushina, I'm Konoha's elite jonin." Uzumaki Kushina said proudly. Yuki was listening at the side and remembered the mission settings in the official book about Kushina. Uzumaki D level tasks 60 times, C level tasks 43 times, B level tasks 28 times, A level tasks 27 times, and S level tasks 20 times. Although she is the Nine-Tails Jinchuuriki, and although a certain Kishimoto who doesn't understand Naruto is making up a story, Uzumaki Kushina is indeed an experienced and elite jonin. Even though she is still young and may not have carried out so many missions, she is probably also capable of being an elite jonin. You have to know that this was when she needed to suppress the nine-tailed fox. He is worthy of being a strong man who can defeat the fourth Hokage, defeat Jiraiya, one of the three ninjas, and does not take the third Hokage seriously. The seventh Hokage has to call him mother when he sees him. He is so terrifying. Just when Yuki was lost in thought, ramen was delivered to the three of them by hand, interrupting him from his thoughts. Next to them, Kurenai, Yuhi and Kushina Uzumaki were chatting happily with each other. Looking at the happy faces of the two, Yuki touched his chin. Will Hong turn into blood red pepper? When he thought of his soft and adorable childhood sweetheart who would punch every little kid in the future, Yuki was so scared that he shook his head. "You've been under an illusion, kid." Uzumaki Kushina saw Yuki shaking his head and complained, "Just now your eyes were lifeless and you didn't respond when I called you. Now you're shaking your head for no apparent reason." "Yuki Yuichi, I'm just thinking about something." "Tisk." Uzumaki Kushina tutted her tongue and shook her head. "I'm so smart and you're so dumb. I even suspect we're not from the same race." "I'm not stupid," Yuki Yuichi retorted immediately upon hearing that, but then he realized his blind spot, stood up immediately, and looked at her with wide eyes. "Same tribe?" "Yes, isn't your red hair proof of this?" Uzumaki Kushina seemed very satisfied with his performance and said with a smile, "Your father is also from our Uzumaki clan." Yuki had always thought that he was a fake Uzumaki clan, because he had red hair because of the template of the 7th generation. After all, his hair was black at first, and it turned red after he obtained the template of the 7th Hokage. "Are you mistaken?" Looking at Uzumaki Kushina, Yuki Yuichi still couldn't believe it, but looking at Uzumaki Kushina's smiling face, he could feel that she was not joking. Looking at Uzumaki Kushina, Yuki Yuichi thought for a moment, waved his hand, and decided to accept this setting, but he was still ready to pretend. "I don't need the blessing of blood to be strong," Yuki Yuichi said, standing on a stool, full of vigor and vitality. "I don't need the blessing of the blood of my ancestors. Give me some time, and I will surpass them." Seeing his expression, Shoda couldn't help but laugh and said, "Guest, please don't step on the stool." "Oh," Yuki Yuichi said, then jumped down and wiped the stool he had stepped on with his sleeve. "You little brat really likes to show off." Uzumaki Kushina shook her head helplessly. "Eat ramen, it will get cold if you don't eat it now." "I'm going to start." X3 None of the three spoke while eating ramen. I have to say, the handmade craftsmanship is really good. As soon as Yuki took a bite of the ramen, he felt his mouth watering. The taste exploded on the tip of his tongue, and the rich aroma lingered in his mouth with one bite. The chewy texture of the ramen, the rich aroma of the soup, and the unique flavors of the side dishes mixed together make this bowl of ramen even more delicious. All these feelings turned into two words in Yuki's mouth: good to eat. This was the most delicious ramen he had ever eaten in his 2 lifetimes. "In the world of ramen, I would like to call you the best." While stuffing ramen into his mouth, Yuki gave a thumbs up to his hand. "Ha ha ha." Hearing Yuki's praise, Shoda smiled from ear to ear. "I'm really embarrassed by such praise." "No, This is my truth. Yuki Yuichi swallowed a mouthful of noodles and grinned at this moment. A mechanical sound rang in his ears, and a light blue virtual panel appeared. Achievement, check-in at Ichiriko Ramen. If there is a place in this world that you must go to, it is this ordinary little noodle shop. It has witnessed the growth of countless people and also witnessed the life of the son of prophecy. Reward, ninjutsu, rage, ninjutsu, rage. Passively gain a 20% damage stacking effect. Your attacks and damage will cause an additional %. Maybe you can use a kunai to poke Susanoo, which should be able to break the defense, right? Looking at the introduction of ninjutsu, rage, Yuki always felt that there was something implied, but he had no evidence. If I remember correctly, the last reward for the ninja body technique, defense, the introduction seemed to be trying to let myself resist a move from the heavenly ability Shock Star. Yuki Yuichi's mind moved, and his personal information appeared. Achievements, childhood sweetheart, lifelong rival, the beginning of ninja, check-in at Ichiriko Ramen, reward, Uzumaki Naruto, ninja student, ninja technique, defense, Hiruno Sakura, Shippuden, ninja technique, rage, title, ninja student, already worn, special reward, Vortex bloodline. Looking at his personal profile, Yuki was generally satisfied. It was just that the special reward fooled him, and he actually thought that the Vortex bloodline was a reward. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 15. Father is Uzumaki, mother is Uchiha. After eating a bowl of ramen, Yuhi Kurenai rubbed her slightly bulging belly. Really delicious, Yuhi Kurenai said, looking at Uzumaki Kushina, then pursed her lips and thanked her. Thank you for your hospitality, Sister Kushina. Perhaps because she had just finished eating, her voice was soft and tender, making people want to protect her. When Uzumaki Kushina heard her voice, she put down her chopsticks and a smile appeared on her face. Hong is so cute. I really want a child like you. Uzumaki Kushina was speaking from the heart. She had this feeling the first time she saw Yuhi Kurenai. It would be nice if my future child was a girl as cute as Hong. Naruto. Uzumaki Kushina was stunned when she heard this. Then she looked at Yuki Yuichi, and it took her a while to realize that she was talking about the name of her future child. If she's a cute girl like Kurenai, I think it would be great to call her Naruto. Kurenai. Yuhi's face turned red after hearing what Uzumaki Kushina and Yuki Yuichi said, and she lowered her head shyly. Yuki Yuichi also put down his chopsticks at this time, rubbed his stomach, looked at Uzumaki Kushina and said, but I feel that even a boy can be called Naruto. How wonderful. You couldn't help but say when he thought of the seduction technique developed by Uzumaki Naruto, maybe he can turn into a cute girl. Upon hearing that, Uzumaki Kushina's eyelids drooped and she just looked at Yuki Yuichi as if sensing the malice coming from Uzumaki Kushina. Yuki Yuichi coughed lightly and said, I was just kidding, humph, but if he wants to learn, I can teach him. Uzumaki Kushina's mood, which had just calmed down, suddenly became chaotic again. What does it mean that if he wants to learn, you can teach him? What I mean is that I am such a brave, upright, friendly senior who possesses the will of fire. I can teach him what courage is when the time comes. Uzumaki Kushina looked at him suspiciously. This is the best thing for you to talk about. The hymn of mankind is the hymn of courage. As the bravest man in Konoha, I deserve it. Yuki patted his chest and spoke with confidence. Uzumaki Kushina looked at him, raised her head and half closed her eyes and asked, so, you are very brave. You're kidding? I'm super brave. Okay, then I'll take you to the training ground to see how brave you are. Uzumaki Kushina laughed and pressed her hands together, making a sound of bones cracking, which looked extremely terrifying. Yuki Yuichi smiled awkwardly when he heard this. I remembered that Uncle Zhenhong is still waiting for us at home. Let's go back first. Thank you for the hospitality, sister, Yuki Yuichi said, took Yuhi Kurenai's little hand and ran outside. Uzumaki Kushina saw him running away and snorted, little guy, you still want to fight me, haha, it seems that the guests like children very much. He collected the bowls of noodles from Yuki Yuichi and Yuhi Kurenai, and said to Uzumaki Kushina with a smile. Uzumaki Kushina exhaled slowly, her eyes narrowed into a crescent shape, and she smiled and said, children are cute, aren't they? That's right. Shouda nodded in agreement. I really envy their energy. As he spoke, he looked outside, as if he wanted to see the scene outside through the curtain. We've finished eating. It's time to go. Uzumaki Kushina put the money on the table and left. After she left, Hatake Tsukumo walked in with Kakashi, saying, "Kakashi, Yuchi and Hong ran out just now, why didn't you go and say hello?" "I'm not going," Kakashi, who still had some bruises on his body, said proudly as they talked. They sat in the seats that Yuki Yuichi and Yuhi Kurenai had just occupied. People come and go, nothing will ever change from this moment on. Ichiraku Ramen will witness the lives of most of Konoha's strong men. After running out of Ichiraku Ramen, Yuki Yuichi and Yuhi Kurenai went home slowly. Not long after he ran out, he found that Uzumaki Kushina did not chase him out, so he knew that she was just trying to scare him, so he naturally didn't need to worry. "We are back." When I got home, Yuhi Shinku was sitting in the living room watching TV when he saw them coming back. He smiled and said, "You must be hungry. I cooked some food and left it there." Yuhi Shinku pointed to the food on another table and continued, "I have something to tell you too after dinner, Dad. We're done eating." Yuhi Kurenai pointed to her rosy lips, which were covered with oil. "Huh?" Finished eating, Yuhi Shinhong was stunned, then scratched her head in confusion. "Yes." Yuhi Kurenai nodded heavily and said happily, "Sister Kushina treated us to ramen. It's delicious." Yuki Yuichi nodded beside him, and when Yuhi Shinku looked at him, he spoke softly, "Yes, I just realized now that I still have the blood of the Uzumaki clan." "Oh? You know?" Yuhi Shinku heard this without any surprise. Yuki Yuichi's bloodline was no secret among the top leaders. He knew it was only a matter of time. "Since you have finished your meal, I'll start right away." Yuhi Shinku turned off the TV, then sat up straight and let Yuki Yuichi and Yuhi Kurenai sit down. Then he looked at Yuki Yuichi with a serious face and said, "Yes, you have the blood of the Uzumaki clan. I was planning to tell you today, but I didn't expect Kushina to tell you in advance. But it's not too late to tell you now. Your hair color and your extraordinary recovery ability are the symbols of the Uzumaki clan's bloodline limit." Yuki was stunned when he heard this. The reason for his stunned state was because of what Yuhi Shinku said. Ever since he obtained the Vortex bloodline through the achievement mission, he has become stronger every day. "I originally thought that it was Yuhi Shinku who was observing me, but I didn't expect that she didn't care at all. But it's true. He already has the blood of the Uzumaki clan. It's not surprising that his hair suddenly turns red and his physique and recovery ability become stronger and stronger." Just as he was thinking, Zihi's Henhong continued, "As you have the Vortex bloodline, your talent will be stronger than that of ordinary people. But did Kushina tell you that you have more than just the Uzumaki bloodline?" Yuhi Shiku's words made Yuki Yuichi stunned again, and he pointed at himself in disbelief. "What does it mean that there is more than just the Uzumaki clan's bloodline?" "Literally." Yuhi Shiku glanced at Yuki Yuichi, then smiled at Yuhi Shinku. "Your father's name is Yuki Aomizu, but his previous name was Uzumaki Aomizu, and your mother's name is Yuki Haru. But her former name was Uchiha Haru. Do you understand now?" Chapter 16, Yuhi Shiku and number 039, S Way of Survival. Yuhi Shiku's words left Yuki Yuichi silent. Yuhi Kurenai blinked her big eyes and looked at the two of them. She didn't quite understand any of this, but she could tell that the man she liked, Yaoichi, was extraordinary. Thinking of this, Yuhi Kurenai and Yuki Yuichi's hands shook slightly. Yuichi feeling Yuhi Kurenai's little movement, Yuki Yuichi turned his head and looked at her. "Put it down, Kurenai. Perhaps this is what you need to bear if you want to become the god of ninja. The sunset is really red. Did what I said require him to shoulder something?" Zihi Shiku wanted to curse in her heart, but she didn't feel right about it, so she held it back. "Okay, I've told you everything I need to tell you. Next." Before Yuhi Shiku finished speaking, Yuki Yuichi interrupted him and pointed at himself and said, "Uncle Shinku, I have the Uzumaki bloodline." Seeing Yuki's actions, Yuhi Shiku's heart skipped a beat. Although she didn't know why he asked this, based on her understanding of Yuki, it wouldn't be that simple. Sure enough, Yuki Yuichi's words immediately reached his ears. "I can sense the ability of the Uzumaki clan's bloodline, but I heard that Uchiha have red-eye disease. Why don't I have it?" Hearing Yuki Yuichi's words, Yuhi Shiku breathed a sigh of relief, but immediately reacted. "That's the Sharingan, not the red-eye disease. The Sharingan will awaken in the future. As long as you behave yourself and don't do anything naughty, it will awaken." "Really?" Yuki Yuichi looked doubtful. "I don't believe it. How can I, a Konoha Jonin, deceive you, a ninja student?" Yuhi Shiku pointed at herself, then at Yuki Yuichi, but soon looked at him seriously and said solemnly, "But I hope you will never awaken in this life." He was a Jonin of Konoha and had been a companion of the Uchiha, So he naturally knew the conditions for the Uchiha's Sharingan to open, that is a bloodline limit that can only be unlocked after losing relatives or friends if possible. He really hopes that Yuki will never be able to open the Sharingan in his life, which means that he will not have to endure all that pain. Some people among the top leaders say that the Uchiha family is inherently evil, but in the eyes of Yuhi Shinku, Uchiha is still quite reliable, especially as companions. He is very powerful, and although his personality is a bit cold or arrogant, he is actually very easy to get along with. The key is that as long as they recognize you, they will treat you sincerely, and if you die, they will directly open their eyes, become more powerful, and avenge themselves. What a great teammate. Of course, this is premised on not meeting a mentally ill person who would stab himself with tears just to open his eyes. He saw these things in Yuki Yuichi's mother. After all, he and Yuki Yuichi's parents were in the same team before. While Yuhi Shinku was reminiscing, Yuki stroked his chin and asked thoughtfully, "I have the blood of Uchiha, don't they care?" Yuki Yuichi's words made Yuhi Shinku smile. "You little brat, why should anyone care about you? Won't they prevent the bloodline from being spread outside?" Yuki asked in confusion. At first, he was pretending about the Sharingan, but he was really confused about this matter. "I'm an Uchiha, not a Hyuga. The Uchiha clan is allowed to marry outside the family, and people like you are not uncommon. It's just that you are a little more special. You have one more Vortex bloodline than those people. As long as you don't come to them and beg them to take you in, they will leave you alone." Yuhi Shinku said this and looked at Yuki Yuichi and smiled. He is really satisfied with Yuki Yuichi, and bickering with each other is just a way for them to express their feelings. Although he didn't like this boy thinking about his daughter, he was still relieved to leave Kurenai to Yuki Yuichi. After hearing what Yuhi Shinku said, Yuki's ancient memories seemed to be revived, and he suddenly recalled that the original book also had such a statement. However, he did not say it explicitly, but instead mentioned Uchiha Izumi, who was suspected to be Uchiha Itachi's girlfriend. Uchiha Izumi's mother married her father, who was not from the Uchiha clan, and moved out of the Uchiha clan. But with the accidental death of Uchiha Izumi's father, her mother took her back to the Uchiha clan and changed her name to Uchiha Izumi. Looking at Yuki Yuichi, Yuhi Shinku asked, "Any more questions?" "No problem." Yuki Yuichi shook his head. He really got some incredible information today. He was thinking before, if he was rewarded with the Uchiha template for his achievements in the future, how would he explain it? Now it seems that no explanation is needed. I am a gifted person, so what's wrong with awakening a Sharingan? Yuki Yuichi thought silently in his heart that although many of his behaviors were the same as those of a child, he actually did not forget that he was an adult. After spending a long time among people of the same age, he became a little childish. But this is also his disguise. Hearing that Yuki Yuichi was fine, Yuhi Shinku coughed lightly and said, "You two are also going to school today. You can't be so leisurely from now on." Yuhi Shinku said this, looking at the two of them with a stern face. Seeing her old father's appearance, Zaruhan pursed her lips nervously. She had never seen her old father like this in front of her. Yuki Yuichi didn't care. He was used to seeing Yuhi Shiku's expression ever since he hooked up with Kurenai. "Yuhi, if you don't see him like this one day, don't doubt it. It's definitely someone else impersonating you. Just go to the Hokage building and report it." Seeing that her expression did not scare Yuki Yuichi, but made her daughter a little nervous, Yuhi Shinku was speechless and stopped pretending to be stern. Instead, she relaxed. "The first-year courses at the ninja school are chakra refining techniques and teaching you to read. You two already know how to do it, so in order not to waste this year, starting tomorrow, you two have to rush back after school in the afternoon, and I will personally teach you two how to do illusion. I am Konoha's master of illusion." Yuhi Shinku was a little proud. The fact that he was able to obtain the title of master of illusion in Konoha, which was home to the Uchiha clan, was enough to show his strength and attainments in illusion. Seeing his smug look, Yuki Yuichi hesitated for a while and whispered, "Can you not learn it, Humha?" Zihi's Hanhuang narrowed his eyes. "What did you say?" "I say, having a powerful ninja like Uncle Shinku guiding us is a blessing that many of us would never ask for in 8 lifetimes. Seeing that Yuhi Shiku's face was not right, Yuki changed his words in an instant. "Now it's right." Chapter 17 Uchiha Obito and number 039, S Challenge. "It will make it easier for the two of you to survive on the battlefield than other ninjas." Yuki Yuichi looked at Yuhi in surprise. He didn't expect that the girl with thick eyebrows and big eyes actually had such a trick. "Why are you looking at me?" Yuhi Shinku continued angrily. "From now on, the two of you will be illusion ninjas. Whether it is true or not, you have to say this to the public." Kurenai was confused by what Yuhi Shinku said, and raised her hand and said, "If it's easy to survive, wouldn't a medical ninja be better?" When seeing her own daughter, Yuhi Shinku sighed, thinking of her silly daughter. Medical ninjas are logistics ninjas. They basically have no combat capabilities. If we are discovered or ambushed by the enemy, we are basically dead. But illusion ninjas are different. Illusion ninjas are normal ninjas that focus more on illusions. You can hide in a place on the battlefield and use illusions on others. You hide in a safe place, and others won't know whether you have cast an illusion or not. If the illusion ability is strong enough, then you can directly control a weaker enemy to fight back and forth with you. This way the chances of survival are very high, and you won't be like a medical ninja with no combat ability. Yuhi Shinku said this and touched her daughter's little head. Remember, surviving on the battlefield is the most important thing. I can't take care of you two forever, but before that, I will tell you the secret of how to survive. This is my way of survival as a Jonin. If you see danger, you must stay away from it. Do you understand? Upon hearing this, Yuhi Kurenai nodded her head as if she understood, then looked at Yuki Yuichi who was nodding frantically beside her. Uncle Zhenhong is right. Let others do the hard work and we just need to survive. Yuki Yuichi's words made Yuhi Shinku feel relieved. The child had grown up and began to accept herself. Okay, training will start tomorrow. You guys go and have fun. Yuhi Shinku waved her hand and turned on the TV again, allowing Yuki and Yuhi Shinku to move freely. Kurenai Yuhi chose to stay at home, while Yuki Yuichi rushed out like a wild dog. The triggering method of his achievement system has been figured out, so let's experiment with it now. By the time he reached training ground number 4, which was not far from the ninja school, there were already 7 or 8 people there. Yuichi. When Might Guy saw Yuichi coming, he immediately waved and shouted happily, "Here, here." Seeing Might Guy's look, the other people around looked over. Yuki glanced around and walked away as if nothing had happened. This is where they play ninja games. Although there are some ninjas training here, there are not many, and they don't seem to be surprised by their playing ninja games here. After all, they are not the only ones playing ninja games here. All the children from the neighborhood were here, and just by looking there were 4 or 5 groups of children gathered together. Kai, long time no see. After hearing what Yuki said, even a thick-skinned man like Might Guy couldn't help but complain. It's been a long time since we last met. I just left 2 hours ago. Ignoring Might Guy's complaints, Yuichi glanced at the people around him and asked curiously, "Where's Kakashi?" He went back with Uncle Tsukumo. The one who spoke was Uchiha Obito. He adjusted his goggles and walked out with a smile on his face. "I remember you weren't here before." Looking at the happy Uchiha Obito, Yuki Yuichi asked curiously. "That's right." Uchiha Obito nodded. "I'm going to take the first step towards becoming Hokage. I will reach the top step by step. I want to be the Hokage." Uchiha Obito's voice was so loud that everyone around looked over, and some ninjas who were training here couldn't help but smile when they heard his words. That's great. They had similar dreams in the beginning, but as they grew older, they realized that they were just dreams. Dreams are out of reach, but ideals have a chance of being realized. And now, after hearing what Uchiha Obito said, they all smiled kindly. When Yuichi heard what Uchiha Obito said, he couldn't help but complain. "Do you still want to be Zhaogao?" "What is Zhaogao?" "A strange name." Uchiha Obito clenched his fists, looked at Yuki Yuichi and said proudly, Uchiha Obito, I challenge you today, Yuki Yuichi." He did not forget that he was here to experiment with his achievement reward, and immediately refused. "No, you can't beat me. I don't like bullying the weak. You don't dare to compete with me, Master Obito." Uchiha Obito put his hands on his hips and said provocatively, "But it's true, I am Uchiha. It's normal that you don't dare to compete with me." Nahara Rin saw him mocking Yuki Yuichi and couldn't help but said worriedly, "Obito, this is not good. You really deserve a beating." Seeing Uchiha Obito's arrogant look, Yuki Yuichi said that he couldn't bear it anymore. "Fuck the experimental achievement mission. Come on, let's have a fight." As soon as Yuki finished speaking, several friends around him who were preparing to play the ninja game immediately stepped back to leave a space for the two of them. Uchiha Obito and Yuki Yuichi stood opposite each other and formed the opposing seal. At the same time as the seal of opposition was completed, Uchiha Obito rushed over without looking back. Seeing this, Yuki also rushed forward. He didn't need any tactics to deal with the young Obito. Although he didn't remember many things clearly, as a popular player, he still remembered the protagonist of this mobile game very clearly at this time. Obito knew no ninjutsu, no taijutsu, and even the Uchiha's signature shuriken control technique. It can be said that at this period, Obito, compared with ordinary children from civilian families, only ate better, refined chakra, and could recognize words other than that. He's just a loser. Both of them rushed straight towards each other. but when they were within 3 meters, Yuki made a sliding tackle and rushed out. He hooked one foot around Uchiha Obito's knee, and with a little force, Uchiha Obito fell to the ground instantly. The Uchiha was afraid that Obito would fall to the ground, but Yuki Yuichi stood up. "You are amazing for having the guts to challenge me, but that's all I can praise you for, damn it." Uchiha Obito fell hard, and his exposed skin was scratched to varying degrees. He stood up with a grin on his face. "Stop talking nonsense," Uchiha Obito said, his face flushed and his neck thick as he yelled, "I'm just not ready. When I open my eyes, I will definitely show you a good lesson." Chapter 18 Uchiha Sasuke. "I will definitely beat you down." Uchiha Obito clenched his hands and shouted, "And Kakashi too, Master Obito is invincible." Yuki Yuichi didn't take it seriously, turned around and prepared to leave, but then stopped. Achievement, Obito's promise. A promise between men always makes people's blood boil. Reward, Uchiha Sasuke, Sharingan, Uchiha Sasuke, Sharingan, skills, fire style, great fireball technique, Sharingan, Chidori, I will definitely kill that man. I swear by the honor of the Uchiha clan, I will definitely kill him. Skill 1, fire style, great fireball technique, gather chakra in the throat, then spit out a large area of flames to burn the target. Skill 2, Sharingan, open the Sharingan to see through the target's movements, and strengthen the great fireball technique for the next 5 minutes. With the same amount of chakra, your great fireball will last longer. Skill 3, Chidori, gather a large amount of chakra in your hands and dash forward. Targets along the way will be severely damaged by lightning. Special talent. 1.5 Magatama Sharingan. Yuki Yuichi really didn't expect that Uchiha Obito could achieve such success after doing this. Promise, Yuki Yuichi murmured, and the words Uchiha Obito just said echoed in his ears. Many people he had beaten up before had said similar things, so when Uchiha Obito said them, he didn't react much. He just thought he was just speaking harshly like those people before. But why didn't those people trigger the achievement? But Uchiha Obito did. Yuki Yuichi rubbed his chin and looked at Uchiha Obito. The fiery look in his eyes made him take a few steps back. He doesn't like me, does he? Uchiha Obito was so scared that his buttocks tightened, and he leaned towards Naruto without saying a word. Coming back to his senses from his thoughts, Yuki looked at Uchiha Obito and gave a bright smile just as Uchiha Obito was about to pull Naruto away. Yuki Yuichi's originally brilliant smile disappeared in an instant. "Anyone who loses to me will never be considered an opponent by me. If you want to defeat me, you are still 20,000 years too early." Upon hearing this, Uchiha Obito no longer cared about the look in Yuki Yuichi's eyes just now, and immediately glared at him. Looking at him with his hands clenched, "Damn it, when I activate my bloodline limit, I will definitely defeat you. Let's talk about it later." Yuki spread his hands, looked at my guy beside him, and pulled him aside. When Uchiha Obito saw this, he was still extremely angry. "What an arrogant guy. Obito, are you okay?" Naruto walked over to him and took out some bandages from her pocket. "Fortunately, I always carry bandages with me for practice, otherwise your injury would be difficult to treat." Naruto said this, pulling Uchiha Obito to sit next to her, and complained while treating his injuries, "Yaoichi-kun is stronger than you. You can wait until you have practiced hard before challenging him." "Why do you have to challenge him now?" Uchiha Obito blushed as he looked at Naruto who was bandaging him seriously. He turned his head away and muttered softly, "Isn't Rin here, Obito?" Naruto was right next to him, so she naturally heard what he said and became a little angry. Seeing that she was angry, Uchiha Obito quickly assured her, "I know I was wrong. I will work hard on my training before challenging that arrogant guy again. Humph, if you do this again next time, I will ignore you." Uchiha Obito quickly made the assurance and then pulled out a bottle of eye drops from his pocket. "As long as I protect my eyes well, I will be able to awaken the Sharingan, and then I will challenge Yuki Yuichi," Uchiha Obito said, raising his head and carefully putting eye drops into himself. Naruto, who had just bandaged him, heard what he said and couldn't help but ask curiously, "Obito, is the Sharingan you mentioned really that powerful?" Naruto's words attracted several friends around to come over. They and Naruto were both children from ordinary families. They knew about ninjas and some other things about ninjas, but had never heard of things like bloodline limits. It was only after I met Uchiha Obito that I realized there was such a special existence among ninjas, and now that Naruto asked the question they had always been curious about, they naturally came over to listen. Hearing Naruto's question and seeing the curious looks of his friends around him, Uchiha Obito immediately stood up and stepped on his seat. Of course, the Sharingan is the most powerful eye technique in the ninja world. Once it is activated, you can have the strength of a Jonin, There are also 2 and 3 Magatama Sharingan on it, representing Chunin and Jinin. Are there any more on the 3 Magatama? I don't know. When Yuki Yuichi came over, and when he heard what Uchiha Obito said, he couldn't help but criticize him. Seeing Yuki Yuichi asking, Uchiha Obito immediately became proud. 3 Magatama is a Jinin. There is naturally no higher. Really? I do not believe. Yuki Yuichi shook his head and said, I think there must be other eyes above the 3 Magatama Sharingan. Impossible, Uchiha Obito retorted. How can I, a member of the Uchiha clan, not know whether there are eyes on the 3 Magatama? Seeing that Yuki Yuichi still looked unconvinced, Uchiha Obito gritted his teeth and said, if there are still eyes on the 3 Magatama Sharingan, I will jump off the cliff of the Minamiga River with you. Hearing Uchiha Obito's harsh words, Yuki Yuichi looked strange and asked, do you want to cosplay Uchiha Shisu? When Might Guy saw the conversation between Yuki Yuichi and Uchiha Obito, he stood aside in distress, not knowing what to do. He has known Yuki Yuichi for a longer time and is well aware that he has a somewhat eccentric personality and a sharp tongue, but he is still a very nice person, to put it nicely. People like Yuki Yuichi have a sharp tongue, and to put it bluntly, they are nitpickers. Just when Might Guy was in distress, Yuki saw what Uchiha Obito was holding and looked him up and down. Can you lend me your eye drops? Yuki pointed at the eye drops in Uchiha Obito's hand. He was going to give this kid a hard beating. Hearing his words, Uchiha Obito looked down at his eye drops and casually threw them to Yuki Yuichi. For you, is your eyesight bad? Uchiha Obito asked somewhat worriedly. Although Yuki Yuichi had beaten him up, he did not hold a grudge. Instead, he was somewhat worried about Yuki Yuichi's eyes. After all, except for Uchiha Obito, everyone who can use eye drops has poor eyesight. Your method of using eye drops to awaken the Sharingan is pretty good. I want to try it too. Chapter 19. Open the Sharingan. Huh? When Uchiha Obito heard his words, he almost fell off the stool and looked at him in disbelief. Not only him, but the little kids around him also looked at him in disbelief. What are you looking at me for? As Yuki Yuichi said this, he raised his head and dripped eye drops into his eyes. When Naholin saw what Yuki Yuichi did, she put her hands on her chest and didn't know how to start the conversation. Yuichi-kun, the Sharingan should be awakened only by the Uchiha clan. Feeling the cool feeling in his eyes, Yuki Yuichi threw the eye drops back to Uchiha Obito. It's okay to try. What if? How is it possible? Uchiha Obito immediately jumped up and sneered. How could you possibly feel that up? Before he could finish his words, he saw Yuki Yuichi's eyes open and close, and a pair of Sharingan appeared. You? How can you open the Sharingan? Uchiha Obito pointed at him tremblingly, his eyes full of disbelief. When he opened the Sharingan for the first time, Yuki Yuichi felt that his eyes, which had originally felt cool because of the eye drops, were now even color. The world in front of my eyes has also changed. The colors are more vivid, and everyone's movements seem to have slowed down. The reptiles on the big tree in the distance were clearly visible to him. This is the Sharingan, which has the abilities of hypnotic eyes, insight eyes, and copying eyes. He now inherited Uchiha Sasuke's 1.5 Magatama Sharingan, which can only provide insight and assist in hypnosis. However, rather than being hypnotic, it would be more accurate to say that it assists in performing illusions. If you want to copy ninjutsu like Kakashi in the original work, you need 3 Magatama to do it. 1 Magatama represents insight, 2 Magatama represent hypnosis, and 3 Magatama represent copying. Although one can possess 3 abilities starting from 1 Magatama, the ability of 1 Magatama is too weak. Not to mention ninjutsu, being able to copy taijutsu is the limit. Uchiha Obito was already in confusion at this time. He was an unappreciated member of the Uchiha clan, and didn't know much about the Sharingan. He only knew that the Sharingan was divided into 1, 2, and 3 Magatama, but even so, he knew that in order to awaken the Sharingan, he must have the Uchiha bloodline. Seeing Uchiha Obito's look, Yuki Yuichi chuckled. To open the Sharingan, isn't it enough to have eyes? Yuki Yuichi's words were like a sharp knife stabbing Uchiha Obito's heart. Could it be that eye drops really work? Uchiha Obito muttered to himself. Uchiha brats like this who are born evil must be severely punished. I just pulled Might Guy aside to do some work. The achievement reward was not what I expected, but unexpectedly achieving an achievement through Uchiha Obito was also a pleasant surprise. Yuki Yuichi said something to everyone and left. When he got the template of Uchiha Sasuke, he was thinking about how to display the Sharingan reasonably. The result was triggered when the Might Guy experiment was completed, and he heard Uchiha Obito's words and saw him putting eye drops in his eyes, so he directly used Uchiha Obito's eye drops to display the Sharingan, putting eye drops in and awakening the Sharingan. That's not too much, right? As for Danzo and Sarutobi Hiruzen, he was not worried at all. Ever since he found out that his father was a member of the Uzumaki clan, He knew that it was impossible for him to be kidnapped by Danzo and Konoha Uncle Shinku. Uzumaki Kushina, Namikaze Minato, even Uchiha and Jiraiya would protect him. It is also highly likely that Sarutobi Hiruzen will not let Danzo attack him. What are you afraid of? Exposing the Sharingan is a bit risky, but then again, one can choke to death while drinking water. If he is afraid of this little risk and hides his ability, then he might as well die in Konoha. Uzumaki Kushina is his biggest supporter. If you are not stupid, you will not make enemies with Jinchuriki for yourself, Yuki Yuichi was thinking as he walked, and soon arrived home. Yuhi Shinku is still watching TV and Zihahong was obediently eating fruit beside him and watching TV with him. Hearing the knock on the door, Yuhi Kurenai immediately dropped the fruit in her hand and ran straight to the door. Yuichi, seeing her daughter's appearance, Yuhi Shinku lay on the chair with a look of despair. Family members, who knows, he raised a yellow-haired girl, no, he raised a red-haired girl, and then seduced his own daughter away. I am back, oh, Zihi's Henhong stared at the TV expressionlessly. Feeling confused, he felt unhappy when he thought about how happy his daughter was just now, to the point that I don't want to see Yuki at all now. Yuki Yuichi didn't care, but walked to the front of the TV. Uncle Henhong, hey, I know you're back, you can move aside. Zihi Shinku sighed. What do you think this is? Yuki Yuichi pointed at his eyes and then activated his Sharingan. The originally black pupil quickly turned red, and then a Magatama separated from the periphery of the pupil. The other eye separated into two Magatama. Oh, Zihi Shinku sighed again, then looked in the direction he pointed. Yuhi Shinku, who was originally lazy and looked like she had lost all hope in life, stood up instantly. Sharingan, when did you open the Sharingan? Yuhi Shinku looked at Yuki Yuichi with a frown. He had just explained the Sharingan and Uchiha matters to this kid, and now he has awakened the Sharingan. Thinking of this, Yuhi Shiku's face changed. Would this kid kill his good friend in order to awaken the Sharingan? Just awakened. Yuki Yuichi had no idea what he was thinking and was still looking at him with his Sharingan. How did you awaken? Zihi Shiku's expression was a little serious and her tone was a little anxious. If it is really as I think, then I have to go and destroy the body myself. The sooner the better. Seeing his look, Yuki Yuichi was a little confused, but still told him everything about himself and Uchiha Obito. However, he omitted the fact that he beat him, and only said that he accidentally opened the Sharingan by using Uchiha Obito's eye drops. After hearing what Yuki Yuichi said, Yuhi Shinku looked at him strangely. As if she was constipated. He had seen many Uchiha trying to awaken the Sharingan or practicing hard to get an extra Magatama for the Sharingan, or taking the initiative to carry out dangerous missions. If the way this kid awakened the Sharingan were to get out, it would probably make a lot of people explode. As Zihi Shinku thought about it, she couldn't help but laugh. What does their mental explosion have to do with me? For things like this, it's better to have more explosions. Good boy, I was right about you. Zihi Shinku patted his shoulder. I've always said that you'll become a powerful ninja in the future. When Yuki Yuichi saw Yuhi Makoto's expression change so quickly, he didn't know how to complain. In his heart, you paid 2,000 ryo and learned how to change faces from Jiraiya, right? Chapter 20. I want you to see my world. The next morning, Kurenai Yuhi pulled Yuki Yuichi up from the bed, rubbing his sleepy eyes. Yuki Yuichi yawned and said, Hong, why did you wake me up so early? I still need to sleep. Hearing his words, Yuhi Kurenai puffed up her cheeks and complained, Yuichi, we have to go to school. Yuhi Kurenai's words woke Yuichi up. He is now an elementary school student, no longer at the age where he can sleep in without anyone bothering him. Thinking of this, Yuki Yuichi sighed, put on his clothes slowly, took the breakfast on the table and went out with Yuhi Kurenai. Yuhi Shinku was not at home in the morning, but left breakfast and lunch money for the two of them on the table. Yuhi Shinku is now the leader of a team of Jonin, and is also in charge of a team of Jinan, who have recently graduated. I go out in the morning every day and come back in the afternoon. Yuki Yuichi and Yuhi Kurenai were walking on the road, looking at the money in their hands, which was a little more than before. The fact that he opened the Sharingan yesterday made Yuhi Shinku happy for a long time. I kept saying great things about Yuki Yuichi until I went to bed at night. Maybe because of this, the money was given a little more, to be honest. Seeing Yuhi Shinku like this, Yuki was quite moved. If it weren't for the existence of Yuhi Shinku and Yuhi Kurenai, he would not have been able to integrate into this world so quickly. A mentally mature adult, even if he or she grows up as a baby in this world, cannot integrate into this world without the bonds of people around him or her. Such people will only feel like outsiders when looking at the people and the world around them. Yuki felt this feeling a few months after he came here. This feeling is uncomfortable, lonely, cold. Anyway, it makes people feel uncomfortable looking at Yuhi Kurenai jumping in front of him. Yuki couldn't help but smile. He wanted power, not because of anything else, but because of Yuhi Shinku and Yuhi Kurenai he wants to protect the people around him. I want Yuhi Shinku to not die because of the Nine Tails. There are many ways to change this outcome at that time. He could take Yuhi Kurenai and Yuhi Shikurin to avoid the Nine Tails night, or change some things so that these things would not happen again. The first option is simple, but highly uncertain, so he chose the second direction and changed some things. Yuki Yuichi's gaze was still on Yuhi Kurenai's back, and his eyes softened if possible. He wanted to let Hong experience the life he had in his previous life in everyone's eyes. He is a mischievous person, but that is just a disguise to trigger his achievements. Yuki was a failed author in his previous life. His personality cannot be described as good, but it is not bad either. He is a bit sinister and sharp-tongued, and like many people, he has many contradictions in his character, but he has the conscience of a normal person. Although he likes the current Konoha, he really can't stand this world. Ninjas have so many ninjutsu and jutsu, but they just use them for fighting. Wouldn't it be nice to use it for farming? Just as he was thinking, Yuhi Kurenai turned her head and blinked at him. Yuchi, something's wrong with you today. What's wrong? Yuki Yuichi withdrew his thoughts and looked at Yuhi Kurenai with a smile. You don't even hold my hands. Irihang stretched out her little hand and said coquettishly, you always held my hand. Before hearing her words, Yuki Yuichi trotted forward and took her little hand. His hands swayed back and forth. Yuki Yuichi turned his head to look at her and smiled. I was just thinking about something and was a little lost in thought. What's the matter? Zairi Hong asked in confusion. I was wondering how there could be a girl as cute as Hong in this world. Yuki Yuichi's words made Yuhi Kurenai's little face blush. Yuchi, you teased me again. Yuhi Kurenai's voice was soft and sticky. Although it was a complaint, to Yuki's ears it sounded like she was acting coquettishly to him. Looking at her blushing little face, Yuki Yuichi couldn't help but sigh in his heart. She was so cute when she was a child, and she became a queen when she grew up. Very good, I like it very much. Grown-up Sister Hong. The two of them arrived at the ninja school while chatting and laughing. Yuhi Kurenai got up early, so naturally you also came early. When the two of them arrived at the classroom, there were only a small number of people inside. When Yuki walked into the classroom holding Kurenai's little hand, everyone in the classroom looked over. Some of the boys looked at Yuki Yuichi with envy and jealousy. Some girls looked at Zairi Hong with envy and jealousy. After yesterday's adjustment, the students have already gotten to know each other among them. Kurenai Yuhi and Natsuo Hinata are the most popular among boys, but unfortunately, Kurenai Yuhi has always been with Yuki, and the relationship between the two makes most boys give up the idea. Hinata looked cold and no boy dared to disturb her. As for the boys, Kakashi and Yuki Yuichi are the most popular among girls. One is a white-haired little bass wearing a mask. The other is Yuki, who has red hair and inherited the excellent genes of Uchiha. Even Uchiha Obito, a guy who looks rustic, is actually quite handsome. It's just that his clothes are rustic and his goggles hide his good looks. Being watched by their classmates did not make Yuki Yuichi and Yuhi Kurenai feel uncomfortable. As they sat down, people came into the classroom one after another. As the bell rang, Umino Ikoku walked in. Looking around, Umino Ikoku frowned. Where's Obito? Classmates, does anyone know where Uchiha Obito went? Kano Ikoku frowned and asked, could this Uchiha brat be skipping classes? He also taught several Uchiha students and knew very well that the Uchiha brats were very arrogant. It is possible to skip classes at this moment. Nahara-rin, who was sitting in the middle, raised her hand and said, Obito must have met someone who needs help on the way. Okay. Kano Ikoku was stunned when he heard this. He felt that Nahara-rin was joking with him. Uchiha help. He really didn't know how to connect these two words. However, seeing Nahara-rin's serious look, Umino Ikoku did not discourage her even though he did not believe it, but nodded. In that case, let's go to class first. Students, please take out your textbooks and open them. As soon as Umino finished speaking, Uchiha Obito's voice rang out from outside the door. He seemed to have run over here, panting, holding his knees with both hands, and apologized to Umino Ikoku. I'm sorry, teacher, I met an old lady crossing the road on the road, and I was delayed helping her cross the road. Chapter 21 Dark Kakashi. Hearing Uchiha Obito's reason, Umino Ikoku's mouth twitched. Is this kid really helping others? Looking at Uchiha Obito panting, Umino Ikoku nodded. What a good boy. Go back to your seat first, and don't be late next time. Yes. After hearing what Kano Ikoku said, Uchiha Obito took a few deep breaths and then promised, I won't be late again. Puchy. Uchiha Obito's words made Yuki Yuichi couldn't help but laugh. The entire classroom looked at him. Sorry. I am professionally trained, unless, I can't help it. Looking at Yuki Yuichi, Umino Ikoku sighed. What a troublemaker. All of them are troublemakers. There are a lot of troublemakers in this class. Uchiha Obito returned to his seat and saw Yuki Yuichi glaring fiercely. Just wait, I will definitely accomplish something great in the future. Uchiha Obito thought silently in his heart, I must make sure all ninjas remember my name. I will definitely become Hokage. Yuichi, what were you laughing at just now? Yuhi Kurenai asked in a low voice, leaning close to Yuki. At the same time, she looked up at Ikoku Kano, who had his back to them, fearing that he would discover her little action. I just feel that there is no way Uchiha Obito wouldn't be late, Yuki Yuichi said in a low voice. How did you know? Kakashi's voice suddenly sounded from the front. In order to avoid being as bored as yesterday, he sat in the back today. Not only Kakashi, all the students who had refined their chakra and could read ran to the back and sat down. Kano Ikoku didn't care. These students were indeed not suitable for learning these things, but there is no way. This is the course. Unless everyone can extract the chakra and recognize the words, this is the main course for the first grade. However, the refinement of chakra basically only takes about a month. Students who have not been able to extract chakra for more than a month basically have no talent and will be expelled a month later. Although these things were still taught, they became secondary instead of the primary. Teaching the will of fire and other theoretical knowledge will be explained at that time. This is also the reason why Yuhi Shinku said that their first-year courses were a waste of time. You will be able to do these things after practicing them a few more times. Looking at Hatake Kakashi, who turned his head in front of him, he still had a dead look in his eyes. Yuki Yuichi said, I just have a hunch. Hearing his words, Hatake Kakashi looked towards Uchiha Obito thoughtfully. Uchiha guys shouldn't be late all the time, right? Hatake Kakashi said uncertainly. Uchiha Obito is a little different. Just as Yuki Yuichi was about to explain, a piece of chalk from Umino Ikoku flew over. Yuki Yuichi stretched out his hands forward, and a piece of chalk the size of a fingernail was pinched between his index and middle fingers. He caught it, but Kakashi was not so lucky. Since his back was facing Umino Ikoku, by the time he felt the danger, the chalk had already hit the back of his head. Arrogant, too arrogant. Umino Ikoku hadn't seen such an arrogant student in a long time. If he had just turned his head back and talked, he wouldn't have said anything, but Kakashi and Yuki Yuichi spoke so loudly that the students in the front row could hear them, and the Uchiha Obito they were discussing was still staring at the two of them. Kano Ikoku pointed outside the door and shouted angrily, You two, get out and stand there. Yuki Yuichi and Hatake Kakashi looked at each other, stood up and walked outside, but before leaving, Yuki Yuichi whispered something in Yuhi Kurenai's ear, which made her a little surprised. After Yuki Yuichi finished speaking, he and Kakashi left their positions. The two walked out of the classroom, and Umino Ikoku's voice became a little louder, as if he wanted them to be able to hear it even when they were standing outside. Yuki Yuichi noticed this and couldn't help but sigh. Teacher Ikoku is such a good person, and he's worried that we can't hear it outside. Hatake Kakashi nodded and said as if he deserved a beating, Yes, but I don't really need it. When Yuki Yuichi heard this, the corner of his mouth twitched. The young Kakashi seemed to be different from what he remembered. Thinking about it, Yuki Yuichi shook his head and walked outside, waving his hand and saying, I'm leaving first. See you in the afternoon. When Umino Ikoku asked him to come out, he decided to skip class. These courses nowadays are really torturous. Looking at Yuki's departing back, Kakashi Hatake was stunned. Then he turned his head to look inside the door, tiptoed and followed Yuki away. Walking on the street, Yuki Yuichi looked at Hatake Kakashi helplessly. Why are you following me? I don't know where to go. Hatake Kakashi said confidently. Then don't follow me. It's better to follow you than for me to not know where to go. But I don't know where to go. After Yuki Yuichi said this, the two of them didn't know what to say for a moment. After a long while, Hatake Kakashi managed to say, Then why did you skip class? Hearing this, Yuki Yuichi also said confidently, Because I don't want to stay in school. There was silence between the two again. They looked at each other and then said at the same time, How about going to practice? They both finished speaking at the same time, and then they were stunned for a moment. Yuki Yuichi looked at Hatake Kakashi and smiled as he put his arm around his shoulders. I didn't realize you're such a hard worker. Yes, I admire you. Hearing his words, Hatake Kakashi was speechless. Don't talk to me like that in an adult tone, asshole. Yuki waved his hand nonchalantly and asked, Since we want to practice, do you know of any good places? It's better to go somewhere secluded. You can skip classes to practice in the future. Otherwise, you'll be easily caught by Ikoku-sensei. Hearing Yuki Yuichi's words, Hatake Kakashi thought for a moment and said, There is an open space in the forest behind the Hokage rock. I've seen it before. We can go there. Good job, Kakashi. Yuki Yuichi gave a thumbs up and praised, "You are worthy of it." Hearing his name, Hatake Kakashi's eyebrows twitched. "Asshole, don't call me Kakashi, okay?" Yuki Yuichi didn't care about this. "Since you don't like this name, I will call you Dark Kakashi from now on." As Yuki said this, he also made an Ultraman shooting beam action. "Ayu. Alice." Hatake Kakashi wanted to curse, but finally gave up. "You should just call me Kakashi." Compared to Dark Kakashi, he actually found that the name Kakashi was not unacceptable. "Then let's go now." Kakashi's words made Yuichi's mouth curl up hearing his words. Hatake Kakashi shook his head. "I'll go back and get the ninja sword first. You can also go back and get the ninja tools. We'll meet up on top of the Hokage rock." "No need." Yuki Yuichi shook his head. "I don't have any ninja tools, and I don't need any. I'll go back with you." Hatake Kakashi thought for a moment after hearing this, then nodded. "Alright, we'll go over there when the time comes." If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 22, Bringing Boys to Zangan number 039, S House. Yuki Yuichi followed Hatake Kakashi towards his house and said at the same time, "Woo-wake, is there no one at your house?" Upon hearing this, Hatake Kakashi paused and looked back at him uncertainly. "There shouldn't be anyone there, right, Yuki Yuichi? So you don't know if there's anyone at home? So, do you still want to go back?" Hatake Kakashi pondered for a moment, then said, "I suddenly remembered that training does not seem to require ninja tools. Let's go straight there." "Tisk tisk," Yuki said twice. "You shouldn't be afraid that your father will be at home and then see you skip class, so beat you up." "Right, what are you talking about?" Hatake Kakashi seemed to have his tail stepped on, and he jumped up and retorted. "What are you talking about? My father doesn't care about these little things." Seeing his look, Yuki Yuichi smiled and said, "Then shall we go to your house?" Hearing this, Hatake Kakashi, who was originally a little jumpy, calmed down seeing Yuki Yuichi's meaningful smile. He coughed twice and said, "Let's go. I just suddenly remembered that I don't need ninja tools, but if you want to go, you can." Having said that, he walked straight towards home. Seeing his actions, Yuki was stunned, stroking his chin and thinking silently, could it be that this kid really doesn't need ninja tools? Thinking of this, Yuki shook his head. "Impossible, absolutely impossible." Thinking about it, I followed him. Kakashi Hatake, who was walking in front, saw Yuki coming up from the corner of his eye and snorted coldly. Yuki didn't care. As a boy, he was evenly matched with his friends, so it was normal for him to be a little tsundere. The two soon arrived at Hatake Kakashi's house. Looking at the gate in front of him, Hatake Kakashi didn't move. "Open the door." "What are you standing there for?" Yuki urged. "It's open soon. Why are you in such a hurry?" Hatake Kakashi frowned. "Let me make it clear first, don't mess with my things." Hearing this, Yuki patted his shoulder and said, "Don't worry, don't you know who I am? It's because I know who you are that I feel at ease." He thought about it in his mind but didn't say it out loud. Instead, he swallowed and opened the door. Through the door, Yuki could clearly see the scene inside. This is a separate house. When you open the door, you will see a yard with some knives and two wooden stakes. In the yard there are some signs of chopping underneath the stake. Judging from the hacking marks, these are where Hatake Kakashi trained. Seeing this, Yuki nudged him with his elbow. "Woo-wake, your house is quite big, HMPH. Upon hearing this, Kakashi Hatake curled the corners of his mouth and held his head high and chest out. Seeing his look, Yuki couldn't help but complain. 50-50, that tsundere has retired. Besides, you are a man, but it's not impossible," Yuki said, stroking his chin and looking at him. Hatake Kakashi was stunned when he heard this. Then took 2 steps to the side. "Asshole, what the hell are you talking about?" "What I mean is, even if you are a man, you can actually beat tsundere." After hearing his words, Yuki walked towards his house. "What are you thinking?" Kakashi Hatake gave up on quibbling. He found that his mouth was not as flexible as Yuki's. Can't say anything about him. Seeing him walk in, Hatake Kakashi also walked in. He first looked at the window of the house, and when he saw that there was no one inside, Hatake Kakashi was relieved. He was really afraid that his father was at home. Otherwise it's hard to explain skipping class on the second day of school. If my father knew about this, I would be lectured. Yuki Yuichi looked around the yard, while Hokage Kakashi took 2 wooden swords of moderate weight and threw one of them to him. Give, I don't need it, Yuchi Yuichi said, looking at the knife in his hand, but thank you anyway. As he said that, he started swinging the turtle knife and slashing wildly on the spot. Seeing his look, Hokage Kakashi was speechless. Not only was he speechless, even Hokage Tsukumo, who was hiding in the dark, twitched his mouth. Unlike what Hokage Kakashi thought, he did not go out, but hid when he heard the voices of Kakashi and Yuki Yuichi seeing his son bringing his classmates home. He didn't have the idea of blaming Hokage Kakashi for skipping classes. He knew the curriculum of the ninja school. He knows his son's character better. It was only a matter of time before Hokage Kakashi skipped classes. He just treated the ninja school as a nursery. What he taught in half a year was not as much as what he taught in 4 or 6 years in the ninja school. He dropped Hokage Kakashi off at the ninja school for only 2 purposes. The first was to make things easier for himself, and the second was to allow Hokage Kakashi to make some friends at school. Now it seems that ninja school is still okay. Hokage Tsukumo thought proudly in his heart that it was only the second day, and Hokage Kakashi knew how to bring a boy home. If you bring a boy home today, you can bring a girl home tomorrow. In 2 years he will have a grandson. When he thought of this, he couldn't help but feel happy. One small step for Hokage Kakashi, one giant leap for the Hokage clan. Yuki and Kakashi Hokage had no idea that Tsukumo Hokage was secretly spying on them. The 2 of them not only took 2 wooden swords, but also some unopened kunai and shurikens for training. Okay, we can go. After getting everything ready, Kakashi Hokage looked around guiltily, then said to Yuki Yuichi is familiar with a place called Hokage. Rocky even peed on the Sandame's head before. I say, Kakashi, are you sure there's really a suitable place for training here? It's not far ahead, Hokage Kakashi said without turning his head. The 2 walked for a while. Just as Yuki Yuichi was about to continue asking questions, Hokage Kakashi suddenly pointed ahead and said, we're here. Yuki Yuichi looked in the direction of his finger and his eyes lit up. There really is an open space here. Just as Kakashi Hokage said, the ground was covered with grass, as if someone had specially created a place here. Wait. Someone made this specifically here? Yuki Yuichi's face wrinkled as if he had discovered a blind spot. Are you sure this is an empty space and not a place created by someone else? Yuki Yuichi's words made Hokage Kakashi stunned. That shouldn't be the case. I've been training here for a long time. If there was anyone else, they would have known it long ago. Hearing what Kakashi Hokage said, Yuki nodded. What Kakashi said made sense. If it was really someone else who did it, he should have been kicked out long ago. Chapter 23. Challenge Namake's Minato. Yuki Yuichi jumped into the open space first. This open space is not small and is circular in shape. The diameter is about 20 meters. The lush trees on both sides surround the open space. It's like a gladiatorial arena. Looking at Yuki holding knives in both hands and slashing at a bush of flowers that was as tall as a person, Kakashi Hokage couldn't help but twitch the corners of his mouth. He wondered if he had made a mistake by giving the wooden sword to this guy. Kakashi Hokage thought about it and decided not to pay any attention to Yuki. He took out his wooden sword and started chopping at a big tree in a methodical manner. The kunai and shurikens they both carried were thrown on the ground. One day I will have a knife in my hand and chop off everything in the world, Yuki kept muttering while swinging his sword. Which man doesn't have this dream? As long as you have a stick in your hand and see rape flowers around you. While Kakashi Hokage was practicing seriously and Yuki was chopping flowers seriously, they did not notice that there was a yellow-haired man squatting above their heads and watching them. Especially when he saw Yuki swinging his sword, the corners of his mouth couldn't help but twitch. Kushina's people are similar to her. Minato Namikaze was squatting on a big tree, his eyes full of red-haired Yuki. The image of Uzumaki Kushina as a child gradually overlapped with Yuki in his mind. He opened this training ground when he was still a student at the ninja school. He put a lot of effort into opening up this training ground. However, after he became a ninja, he rarely came to this training ground. This also gave Kakashi Hokage an opportunity to take advantage of. As soon as he heard a sound coming from outside, Minato Namikaze jumped directly onto a tree and hid. Maybe this is what a ninja is. Hokage Tsukumo and Namikaze Minato simply hid and spied secretly. However, seeing Yuki like this, he couldn't bear it anymore because the flowers that this boy chopped were planted by him and Uzumaki Kushina together. Just as Yuki was slashing, Minato Namikaze appeared silently behind him. What are you doing? Of course Yuki Yuichi had just said 3 words when he suddenly realized something was wrong. He turned around and saw a yellow-haired hedgehog head appear behind him. Yuki Yuichi was startled when he saw Minato Namikaze suddenly appear behind him. "Brother Minato, why are you here?" When he heard Yuki calling him Brother Minato, Minato Namikaze was stunned, and then as if he thought of something, he pointed at his Jonin vest with a gloomy face. "When you see this vest, you have to call it Jonin." Yuki Yuichi was stunned for a moment, then looked at Hokage Kakashi, who came over because of the sudden appearance of Namikaze Minato, and answered carefully, "What is your title when you go out?" Hearing this, Namikaze Minato sighed, shook his head helplessly, glanced at Hokage Kakashi, who was walking over, and then continued to look at Yuki Yuichi. "Why are you here?" "Of course I come here to train," Yuki said confidently. He could justify it, but Hokage Kakashi was not so reckless. He explained, "I saw an open space here before, which is very suitable for training, so I trained here." "Was this place opened up by Minato-senpai?" As Kakashi Hokage said this, he looked at Minato Namikaze and apologized, "We're sorry if we disturbed you. We'll leave now." Kakashi Hokage's politeness formed a sharp contrast with Yuki's self-righteousness. Namikaze Minato looked at Hokage Kakashi helplessly. "It's not that it's a bother, but this place was indeed opened up by me," said. Namikaze Minato paused, and continued, "You will practice here from now on. Since I became a ninja, I don't come here often." Hokage Kakashi nodded, and with the spirit of a craftsman, he bowed 90 degrees and said, "Thank you very much." Yuki saw the conversation between Hokage Kakashi and Namikaze Minato and stroked his chin. "Oh, Brother Minato, can I challenge you, huh?" Namikaze Minato was stunned again when he heard that, and pointed at himself. "Me? Yes," Yuki nodded. No longer looking so nonchalant, "I want to see what level my strength has reached. If I don't even know where my own strength lies, then my training is meaningless." Yuki was very serious, and Kakashi Hokage next to him was also quite moved. Hokage Tsukumo usually gave him instruction, and he had never challenged a strong man like this before. Seeing Yuki's appearance, Minato Namikaze smiled and looked quite sunny. "In that case, how about you two come together?" Naturally, he also saw how excited Kakashi Hokage was, and he did not favor one over the other. "But let both of them attack together, okay?" X2 Yuki and Hokage Kakashi agreed at the same time. Minato Namikaze is now an elite Jonin. Being able to challenge such a strong person, they will definitely gain something even if they lose. The three of them stood still. Yuki and Hokage Kakashi looked at each other and nodded slightly. "I'll be the main attacker, and you'll be the assist." "Yeah," Hokage Kakashi nodded. He also wanted to attack, but he was no match for Yuki after the sparring match at school yesterday. He reviewed it and found that Yuki's recovery ability to withstand blows, strength, and speed were all better than his. As for ninjutsu, he knows illusion and physical skills, and he himself knows fire escape and swordsmanship. And even before he started, he knew that his swordsmanship and ninjutsu were not enough to fight against a ninja like Minato Namikaze. Although Yuki is similar, his physical skills and physical strength are better than mine. The three of them formed the seal of opposition. At the same time, Minato Namikaze did not move, and Yuki rushed out first. Hokage Kakashi followed behind him with a wooden sword. When Minato Namikaze saw this, a hint of admiration flashed in his eyes. "Use yourself to attract me, and then let the other one attack." He noticed all of Yuki's little moves, including his conversation with Hokage Kakashi. "Do you underestimate me a little?" said Minato Namikaze, dodging a punch from Yuki, then grabbed his arm from the side, moved backwards, and kicked him in the lower abdomen. Yuki flew backwards instantly. However, his physique was still relatively strong. He was kicked away by Minato Namikaze, but he adjusted his posture in the air, did a backflip, and landed on the ground and took a few steps back. A hint of admiration flashed in Minato Namikaze's eyes again. When he was Yuki's age, he was not as good as this kid. At this moment, Kakashi Hokage had also drawn his sword. Although it was a wooden sword, it still made a whistling sound when Kakashi Hokage swung the sword. Chapter 24 by Yu Guang. The wooden sword slashed towards Minato Namikaze's chest with a sound of breaking wind. At this moment, Hokage Kakashi only had his figure in his eyes. The Hokage swordsmanship inherited from Konoha White Fang can still greatly enhance his combat effectiveness even though he has just mastered the basics. At the same time that Namikaze Minato kicked Yuki away, he seized the opportunity to step forward. If Namikaze Minato wanted to dodge, he would definitely be in a mess. This is what Kakashi Hokage really thinks, but the gap in strength is still too big. He thought one thing, but in reality it was another. Seeing him swinging his sword, Namake's Minato did not dodge, but smiled. The moment the wooden sword touched him, he turned into a wisp of white smoke. Kakashi Hatake's wooden sword hit the wooden stake, making a sound of wood hitting each other. When Kakashi Hatake was shocked when he saw this and turned his head to look around. When did you seal it? While he was observing, Namake's Minato reappeared, and seeing his appearance, he smiled and said, "If you have a deep enough grasp of ninjutsu, you can perform it without seals." Namake's words were very direct, and he also told the two that he did not need to make hand seals to perform the substitution technique. But at this moment, Yuchi picked up the wooden sword he had dropped earlier. The force of Minato Namake's kick just now was well controlled, and it only sent him flying backwards, but he was not injured, so he just felt a little uncomfortable. If you were an ordinary person, this uncomfortable feeling would affect his combat effectiveness, but he was different. He possessed the recovery ability of the Uzumaki clan. Even in such a short period of time, he soon no longer felt uncomfortable thanks to the recovery ability of the Uzumaki clan. Holding a knife in his right hand, Yuchi looked at Minato Namake's and rushed forward again. A knife is better than no knife. It is easy to learn how to use a knife, but difficult to master it. A knife is mainly used for chopping and smashing. The advantage of a knife lies in chopping. There are also lifting, stabbing, intercepting, blocking, collapsing, chopping, wiping, bringing, wrapping, and so on. The key to swordsmanship is bravery. As long as you are strong and can chop, you will know how to use a knife. This is how easy it is to learn how to use a knife. Anyone can hold a knife and swing it a few times. Yuki Yuichi is naturally no exception. There are two ways, with a knife and without a knife. Seeing Yuchi rushing towards him again, a hint of surprise flashed in Minato Namake's eyes, but he reacted when he saw his red hair. If we were to ask who knows the Uzumaki clan best besides the people of the Uzumaki clan, it would undoubtedly be Minato Namake's. After all, he had had close contact with the descendants of the Uzumaki clan. Likewise, he had a deep understanding of the Uzumaki clan. At this moment, Yuki Yuichi stepped forward and swung the knife at his shoulder and neck. Seeing this, Minato Namake's did not dodge, nor did he plan to use the substitution technique. Compared to Hatake Kakashi, Yuki Yuichi's swordsmanship is so bad that he can dodge it at will. So, when Yuki swung his sword, Minato Namake's reached out to grab his hand and take the wooden sword away. When seeing his actions, Yuki Yuichi showed a triumphant look in his eyes. Right at this moment, Yuki Yuichi suddenly roared, and the Magatama Sharingan appeared in his eyes, reflecting his pupils in a scarlet color. The wooden sword in his hand slipped out of his hand instantly, and Yuki Yuichi retracted his hand holding the sword instantly, and formed a seal at an extremely fast speed. Magic. This is not the right place. Whether it is the Sharingan that has just been opened or it is other levels of Magatama Sharingan, they will amplify the illusion. The hypnotic eyes played a big role in it. Even though the hypnotic eye of the one Magatama Sharingan is not very effective, when combined with illusion, the effect is still impressive. Even Namake's Minato, an elite Chunin, was still stunned for a moment after being treated like this by Yuki Yuichi. At this moment, Hatake Kakashi also rushed over, took advantage of the moment when he was stunned, and slashed at him with his sword. Minato Namake's is indeed an elite Chunin and has been a genius since childhood. After struggling out of the illusion, the first thing he saw was Kakashi Hatake's wooden sword. Namake's Minato suddenly grabbed the wooden sword that Kakashi was swinging towards him with his hand and looked at the two of them with a smile. "Well, I already know the strengths of both of you." As Minato Namake spoke, a sunny smile appeared on his face, like a little sun. Feeling the smile emanating from him, Yuchi and Kakashi Hatake were stunned, especially Yuchi. When he saw his smile, he couldn't help but sigh in his heart that he was worthy of the title of Little Sun. Minato Namake's at first he didn't quite understand how it was possible that there was someone in this world who could infect others with just a smile, but now that he personally felt the emotions emanating from Minato Namake's, he knew that there were indeed such people in this world. Minato Namake's smile gives people a feeling of warmth and harmony. Yuki Yuichi took a deep breath, then looked at him seriously and said, "I'm sorry to bother you, Brother Minato." This time, Kakashi Hatake realized it later, but he also thanked Minato Namake's together with Yuchi. "No need to thank me." Namake's Minato still smiled warmly and sunny. "I have nothing to do now anyway. Hokage once said that where the leaves dance, the fire will also continue. The flames will illuminate the village and allow new trees to sprout, and I am the fire now, and you are the new leaves." Minato Namake's can be considered a ninja who truly inherited the will of fire. Although he doesn't remember some things clearly, Yuchi still remembers that during the Nine Tails Rebellion, Minato Namikaze sacrificed himself to reseal the Nine Tails to protect others. Although many people say that he committed suicide for love, there is not much basis for this. Besides, even if he really committed suicide for love, what does it matter? His actions to protect the village and other people are genuine, and that's enough regardless of the process or the result. He sacrificed himself. A gentleman does not care about his heart when discussing his deeds. There is no perfect person in the world when it comes to his heart compared to Minato Namikaze. No one is good enough. This statement is not false. A ninja who is powerful, kind, helpful, and has perfectly inherited the will of fire is a white moonlight level existence in this world. Yuki Yuichi was thinking about this, and Namikaze Minato spoke again. I have an assessment of your strength. Hearing this, Hokage Kakashi looked at him expectantly. Yuki Yuichi withdrew his thoughts and looked at him with some curiosity. When Minato Namikaze saw the two's actions, he chuckled softly, then sat down on the ground without caring about the mess entered on the ground, and at the same time motioned for the two of them to sit down. Let's talk about you first, Namikaze Minato said, looking at Hokage Kakashi, and said with a smile, you are quite capable among your peers, especially your swordsmanship. Many genin can compare to you. Chapter 25. Are swords such inconvenient things? Hearing these words, Kakashi Hokage was also somewhat happy, but his mask successfully concealed his joy, and one could only see the joy in his eyes through his eyes. But at this moment, Minato Namikaze changed his tone. Your strength is already comparable to that of a newly graduated genin, but your shortcomings are equally obvious. You don't have enough strength, Minato Namikaze said, picking up his wooden sword and weighing it in his hand. Tsukumo-senpai's swordsmanship is very strong, but you are a little too obsessed, perhaps because you have always used a wooden sword. Your sword skills are very light. When Hokage Kakashi heard this, he was very dissatisfied. When he swings his sword, it can create wind. How can it be light? Namikaze Minato said as he handed the wooden sword back to Hokage Kakashi. But then again, you are still young now. When you are strong enough in the future, this shortcoming of yours will be gone, but it's still not close. I would rate your ability as that of a recently graduated genin. Minato Namikaze said this and looked at Yuki Yuichi, who was standing silently by the side. He didn't expect the strength that Yuki just displayed, especially those scarlet Mogatama Sharingan. He was not curious when Yuki Yuichi showed his Mogatama Sharingan thanks to Uzumaki Kushina. He also knew that Yuki Yuichi had Uchiha blood. What he didn't expect was that Yuki Yuichi had opened the Sharingan so early. Thinking of this, Minato Namikaze looked at him with pity and sympathy before he even opened his mouth. The opening of the Sharingan requires strong emotional stimulation. Even though Yuhi Shinku-senpai adopted the child, he must have suffered a lot. Minato Namikaze thought about it and looked at Yuki with even more sympathy. Seeing him staring at him without saying anything, Yuki Yuichi frowned. Brother Minato, why are you staring at me? Hearing this, Namikaze Minato did not answer, but looked at him and asked, you must have had a hard time and are very tired these years, right, Yuki Yuichi? What are you talking about? Yuki Yuichi understood what was going on from Minato Namikaze's appearance. This is like seeing your own Sharingan, and then imagining that you have suffered a lot. After pondering for a moment, Yuki looked at Minato Namikaze and asked cautiously, is there a possibility that I didn't suffer? I understand. Namikaze Minato nodded. Thinking that he was trying to save his self-esteem and the stubbornness of a young boy, he did not refute but nodded in agreement. Seeing his appearance, Yuki Yuichi couldn't hold back. If possible, he would like to continue speaking along the lines of Minato Namikaze's words, so that he could gain Minato Namikaze's sympathy and compassion and get more help. But he opened his eyes in full view of everyone, and he had no intention of hiding it. There was no need. With the existence of Yuhi Shinku, he doesn't need to worry about so-called resources or ninjutsu at all. What's more, he also has an achievement system, so he doesn't need ninjutsu at all. Kakashi Hokage was watching him from the side. With the same expression as Minato Namikaze knew the major ninja clans in Konoha and their characteristics. Seeing the two people's appearance, Yuki Yuichi sighed and said weakly, I really don't find it exciting. I ran into Uchiha Obito at the training ground yesterday and found that this guy wanted to open his eyes through eye drops. I just wanted to give it a try, so I borrowed his eye drops and tried them, and then my eyes opened. It was really not painful or exciting at all. Hearing this, Hokage Kakashi looked at Yuki thoughtfully. It turns out that eye drops can open the Uchiha's eyes. Unlike Hokage Kakashi, Namikaze Minato knew the difficulty of opening the Uchiha eyes. After hearing his words, I was silent for a moment. Then I thought about my previous thoughts and actions, and suddenly I didn't know what to say. As for whether Yuki had deceived him, He believed that Yuchi had not deceived him, and he believed even more in his own ninja's insight. Yuichi's expression and movements just now didn't seem like he was lying, and what he said was easy to verify. No one among the three of them spoke for a while, and the atmosphere suddenly became a little awkward. After a long while, Namokaze Minato coughed lightly, feeling that the current atmosphere was not right, and immediately said, "In this case, let's continue to talk about your strength." Upon hearing this, Yuki Yuichi and Hotake Kakashi sat up straighter, especially Hotake Kakashi. Although Namokaze Minato talked about his level of strength, he wanted to know more about Yuichi's situation. This way, he would be able to seize his weakness in the next battle. Namokaze Minato saw the two's actions, smiled with satisfaction, and said, "Your strength is above Kakashi, but you don't know how to use a knife? Can you tell me why you want to use a knife?" Minato Namokaze's words were gentle, without any blame or rebuke, and seemed to be out of pure curiosity. He naturally knew that Yuki only used the knife as bait, but he wanted to hear Yuki's attitude towards swordsmanship. This gives us a glimpse of the whole picture. Yuki heard this and said without caring, "I really don't need to use a knife, but isn't the purpose of a sword to give you greater power? So it makes sense for me to use the wooden sword as bait and suddenly give up on casting the illusion." Before Minato Namokaze could make any move, Kakashi Hotake beside him heard these words and glared at Yuki. Hotake Kakashi was taught the Hotake swordsmanship by Hotake Tsukumo since he was a child. Hotake Kakashi is not the same person whose father was killed by rumors. Now he has a sincere love for swords. If you don't have feelings for swords, you won't achieve anything. Glancing at Kakashi Hotake, Yuki Yuichi snorted twice. "How can a sword be such an inconvenient thing, you?" Kakashi Hotake pointed at him and was speechless for a moment. Minato Namokaze looked at the two of them and smiled. "This is youth." After stopping the two, he continued, "Your idea is actually not wrong. When fighting, you must learn to use everything around you that can be used. You did a great job on that. However, your moves are too straightforward." Namokaze Minato said, standing up and signaling Yuki Yuichi to stand up as well. Using his own movements, he led Yuki Yuichi to review the situation of their first fight. And then Minato Namokaze continued, "If I hadn't shown mercy at the beginning, you might have been seriously injured. When fighting, you must learn to use your own and the opponent's intelligence and strengths and weaknesses. For example, the second time you came over with a knife, you took advantage of my underestimation of me and the information gap between your Sharingan and illusion techniques. That's a very good thing. Your current strength and ability to utilize items and intelligence are stronger than many Shinanan." Namokaze Minato said this, and looked at the two of them with a bright smile. "So, to celebrate our acquaintance, I will treat you two to ramen." End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.